Gamescom partnered up with Australia this year, and that made us open indies curious. What indies are there in Australia, and what are they currently working on? One of them is Blowfish Studios, and I'm now here with Ben Lee. He's the co-founder of the studio. Hi, Ben.
Hi, Sarah. How are you?
I'm great. Hope you're doing good too.
Yeah. And at the end of the day here for me, I know it's really the start of the day for you.
Yeah, that's true. First question, describe a scene from your upcoming game. It's called Phantom Galaxies, and it's like this open world space simulator, right?
Yeah, so it's actually open world space sim combat with like transforming mechs. And so, you're a pilot, so they're piloted. So you play as a character, and you get to pilot what we call starfighters. They have like the spaceship form and the mech form, and really one of the scenes is you kind of in space, and you have like space fights as you do, and you take a mission from one of the space stations in your character, and then you go out into the world and you trap them down, and you through a mission, and then you get into like combat, right? Space combat, and where you're piloting your spaceship using your weapons and your arsenal, and you're trying to defeat them. You get to that kind of that moment where you need that special bit of extra power. You can transform into a giant fighting mecha, and then you get extra, access to different kind of abilities and weapons like rockets and things like that, and you get to take them down. Back the third person viewpoint, over the shoulder, in both forms, and that's kind of harking back to one of the big inspirations was Robotech Macross style battles and fights, and a bit of the obviously with the Transformers thrown in there too, Gen 1. So this is like a audio kind of podcast, but in my office in the background, I've got like a bookshelf full of Robotech and Transformer toys, which is obviously great for me to play around with.
Yeah, awesome. Second question, like your game Phantom Galaxies, it will also allow players to purchase NFTs. Why are you implementing that in your game?
Last year, we started getting into the blockchain NFTs and what that means for games. We are a traditional game developer. Been making games for over 12 years now, and starting in mobile, going to PC console. And one of the big things, also a big game player. So after the old MMOs, got started at EverQuest, and you got into World of Warcraft and Eve Online. And one of the things is, what the blockchain does let us do is to put the game items in the game world and things like your inventory and things that you are, your character even, and to put them onto the blockchain and have that kind of true digital asset ownership of them. And while, we hear all different kind of arguments back and forth, pros and cons for it, still feel like it's a very interesting technology, like they call it Web3. So it's the internet. So essentially, once you have these NFTs, which might represent your kind of your big starfighter, your big mech that you've been working on for months, it's yours in your public wallet, and then you can sell it if you want, or you can just hold it and build it up. But that it is always yours. So that's just what blockchain gaming is about. And it's not like you can buy it off people. You can start off, but you're always still investing your time into it, right? So your play time, and it becomes kind of your valuable item in that sense as well.
Mm-hmm. So is there also some kind of marketplace then in the game?
Yeah, so the great thing also about NFTs and the fact that it's Web3 is that while we do have our own marketplace in the game, the NFT it's a standard. So we are building on the Polygon blockchain, but that means there's many kind of just public marketplaces out there, and so this is where the items are your own as an individual, as a player. It's not restricted to just in the game. So we don't control that item in the game. You can sell it. A owner can sell it in any kind of marketplace. So it's like if you want to relate it to, say, World of Warcraft, where you got your level 35 warrior, I could go to eBay and sell it on eBay, and whoever buys it on eBay, it just gets transferred and they own it. That need to talk to the game owner or developer or publisher. That player now owns that character. They can just come download World of Warcraft, jump in, and now they've got that level 35 warrior. So while we do have our own marketplace, which is going to kind of theme to the game and give you a bit of filtering, because the NFTs are a standard, you can really do what you want with it outside of the game as well.
And why did you want to have NFTs in your game? Just because you say it's interesting?
We did get acquired by an America group last year, like 12 months ago, and they are fully you know, kind of focused on blockchain gaming and true digital asset ownership. But the reason why we did that is because we'd been looking into it, and it was something that I think to us is like the next evolution of gaming. It's not changing games per se; it doesn't change genres at all. What it does, it just kind of is it's a supporting technology for games, and so that's why for us especially, we're working on quite a number of games, but the games themselves, they're still follow the same game design as a typical traditional game. We're still about fun, so that the players, essentially rewarding playtime and the engagement with the game. But it's just cool how we can integrate NFTs and kind of there's a thing called proof of experience as well. And again, it's some people say, oh, we can do that with like a database. And look, you can, but that database is owned by the game. So but in this case, everything's on a blockchain, which is again Web3. No one essentially owns it and is out there. And so it's whether it has any real value to a particular person is up to that person. It's like I've got a toy. Like I love toys. I got a model that it's special to me, right? Like I used to have a Subaru WRX car, and I've got this like model of a WRX, and that's me special because I place value on it. But someone else, I don't care. I just drop a bit. So it really just allows people, to players to, if they decide to give value to something personally, then they can. And it's I say trustless kind of. I guess it's just persistent and permanent digital items, digital assets. So I don't know. I think it's pretty cool that I can send it wherever I want in the world. This it's just all done through like the internet. Like the internet, no one asks, how's the internet work? It just works. And you start a website here, and anyone can come visit it. And I think that's great. And that is why they call blockchain. They call it the Web3 standards and framework.
Yeah. All right. So it's just for the players, and that maybe players can make money from their creations. But do you get money from them as well?
Yeah. So I mean, this is the one kind of I think is which I found also, which was quite I think it's a good thing for creators, for content creators, not just game developers, but for us as well. So there are like creator royalties, which you can put onto any asset, and in that way that the original creator gets a percentage of royalty of any ongoing sales. So I think it's great for creators, like even from a music or art perspective as well, where it's hard. And this has been pretty decades old kind of battle between digital music rights and stuff like that. Yeah, if you followed that, right? So artists don't really want to hand over their music, because once they've done it once, and then they lose control of it essentially. So while it's not quite so simple yet, the solution around that, it is there, and it's also not enforced. So some of the marketplaces will let you have that creator royalty, but it's still possible for people just to transfer items around without having any kind of that secondary royalty as well. So it is just a good thing, and it's only possible because of the blockchain, because it is, when you create an NFT or an item, it is permanent and it's public about who created it, and you can never kind of wipe that away or erase that history. So any NFT you see, you can follow, even if it gets exchanged multiple times, millions of times between people. You can follow it all the way back to the very first time it was created, and you can see who created it. So that's another kind of feature of the blockchain, which makes it possible.
All right. Third question: why do you call yourself Blowfish Studios? Do you have a Blowfish toy?
We get asked this quite a lot. I used to have like a aquarium, like a saltwater aquarium. We used to look after. We had pufferfish in there, blowfish in there. When we were trying to come up with a name for the studio, for me or for most people, like, coming up with the names is one of the hardest things to do, because you have, it's like unlimited options, right? It's like, oh, I can do this, or this, and Yeah, but then you also care about what people think of that name. So, it's pretty tough.
But I like the name.
I think it turned out well, so thank you. But I think people look and our logo has changed a couple of times, but now people really like our logo. We put it on t-shirts, and people actually want the t-shirts. Like, oh, they think it's cool. So, yeah.
Fourth question, how is Australia for indie developers? Like, what do you think is great and where do you see room for improvement?
Right now, I think we're at the start of a really great time for indie development in Australia. Hasn't always been that way. It's been on and off. And when I say that, I'm talking about essentially, support from the government and different government departments, and the actual environment to build games in. So right now, we have many things which are very pro in development here in Australia. The exchange rate in Aussie dollar is very, very good level for exporting out to different parts of the world. So that's really strong. We have stable government, stable kind of social economic environment. That's really cool. But right now, we also have a lot of government grants and funds that are really springing up around game development, both from the state government perspective and the federal government perspective. And these grants and tax rebates there's ones that are focused at larger studios and larger developments. There's also ones that focus more at the smaller grants. So full kind of prototype or game funding, and that's like I said, both at the state and federal level. So you can get two different levels. I talk to a lot of game developers around the world, and so I know there are actually quite a few other places that have had this kind of support for a while. Australia is doing really well now, and I think catching up to them. That's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. And what do you think still should be improved?
I think from game development point of view, in that we we lost a lot of experienced game developers over the last years. I think when we had when there was a GFC and the Aussie dollars went up quite a lot, we lost a lot of experienced game developers overseas. Are actually seeing quite a few slightly coming back now. The pandemic was pretty tough, obviously, and coming back. Really, yeah. I mean, when you say what's improved, I don't know. We're actually in a good state right now. So, yeah, I mean, sure, there's someone will say that it's still maybe. It's not about the game development process itself. It's very competitive, right? So I think now, because game development has become so accessible, you have everyone making games, and so competition is there. So it's harder, but that's not a what can you improve for game development in Australia kind of thing. So,
All right. And fifth and last question: what moment in your life in the gaming industry will you always remember?
One of the big ones is our very kind of our third game that we made, Siegecraft. It was actually in our first year of going full time from the company, been building it, and we actually used another indie publisher ourselves back then. This is back in 2011, Chris, and they were interested in the game, and so we signed up, and so that was really cool. And then they showed it to Apple. So it was a mobile game, looking at iOS. They showed it to Apple, and Apple were really keen on. They really want to feature it, and this is 2011, and they essentially invited us to go over there to their campus, Cupertino, and essentially get access to the engineers and try to integrate some of the new Game Center functionality that was coming out in that version of the iOS. And so so I got to go over there to Cupertino, go into the Apple headquarters or campus, and just and it's only a couple of days, but that was cool. And then a few months later, when we released the game, we actually were able to get it wasn't the game of the week or editor's choice at the time. It was like another big banner kind of feature, and the game did really well. And I'll always remember that because it was a lot of time. We did a little bit of crunch for that. I mean, it was for ourselves, right? It was just me and my business partner, Aaron Grove, and so we did that. And it was a huge kind of validation, I guess, of all the effort and everything we put into it. See everybody enjoying it, and it sold really well. And essentially, it was kind of the thing that kickstarted or kicked on Blowfish. We'd given ourselves a year, and seeing that success and really we would not be here today where we've got 95 staff now, employees. And so we started with 2 people in my 2-bedroom unit. We started on my dining room table. And that's where we were for the first year. And to go from there to where we are now, it's been amazing. And so I think that point there was kind of, I'll remember that part.
Yeah, awesome. Well, Ben, thanks so much for all these insights. And it's so great that you will be here in Germany soon at Gamescom, and we'll see you there.
Yeah, no, it'll be great. We have not, as a studio, not been to Gamescom before, so this is first time.
I'm now here with Zilin Zhu. He's the project manager of Earthlingo, and with Ray Corrigan. He's the lead developer. They are at Gamescom this year from Australia. Hi, you guys. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you for having us, Sarah.
So first question, describe a scene from Earthlingo from your current game and tell us what it's all about.
Let me start off there. So picture this. You're the player. You are put in the boots of an alien, sent to Earth, dropped in a rich open world map where every object, every building, every car, everything you see is interactive and is an opportunity to explore the language.
So I might jump into an example. So as an example, we have multiple levels, which are all just different themes of words and sentences that you can learn. So for example, if you're in the house level, you may have like an apple on the table. So from that one object, you could learn the word for apple, you could learn the verb for eat, and you could learn the color, say red, if it's a red apple. And the idea is we're deeply linking the language with the context of the 3D world that you're presented with. But then also we're layering in popular gameplay loops that we're taking from non-educational games. We really want to focus on getting actual gameplay loops that feel like you're actually playing a game while you're learning a language. So in this house level, you're challenged with having to run around and you have to navigate around the world kind of like a platform or in interesting ways to move between objects as you're tested on your language skills. So that's the current state of the world now. It's a big 3D world to explore the language with, as Zilin said.
And your game is called Earthlingo, and your company is also called Earthlingo, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So made an easy choice there.
Oh yeah, we thought the name fit, and why overcomplicate it?
Sure. Why not? So second question, why did you develop a vocabulary learning game?
You can take this one.
I'll start off with this. So it really just came from a need, and it was something where when I had that need, I looked out and I couldn't quite find what I was looking for out there. I think Zilin will talk a bit more about this later. So essentially, I had been in Japan before. I had learned Japanese, and then I returned to Australia, and I had this. I was like, I want to keep up my Japanese. I want to keep practicing words and practicing sentences and making sure I don't lose the language. But the problem with that is when you live a busy life, it's very difficult because finishing work and then getting out some flashcards and bringing out the textbooks to study a language is it feels a lot like work. So the idea was, well, what if we made something where it didn't feel like work when you were able to revise the language? So it's difficult to get the motivation for flashcards and textbooks, but you always feel like playing a game at the end of the day because it's a really nice way to unwind. So the idea was, what if you could have that feeling of I'm relaxing, I'm playing a game, and you're having fun while you're doing it, and it just doesn't feel like you have to put in the effort to maintain that language or to learn a new language.
Right. Yeah. So we had to look at outside in the market, look at what else was there. Well, Ray specifically, because he had this inherent interest in trying to maintain his Japanese skills, and he found, and then subsequently we found that the language learning games that were already out on the market that were available to us were very limited in scope, both in the sense that they didn't teach that much in the language and also had very limited gameplay elements within them. And what we wanted to do was to fix that. So we said, all right, so this is obviously something that we want. Let's go and try and make a complete gameplay experience that could also teach the players a meaningful amount of this language. And this is pie in the sky thinking. Ultimately, we want a player to be able to play this game, enjoy this game, and then jet off to another country in the world, walk into a bar or cafe, and strike up a conversation.
Cool.
Yeah, that's really our target. Like we're not aiming to get people to a native level of proficiency, because that's very difficult within the context of one game. But at the same time, we don't want. Right now, I'd say the game's good for practicing vocabulary, but we want to move beyond that. We want to get to the point where you can actually get a basic conversational level out of playing the game.
Will there be a Croatian language pack too at some point?
Of course, they will say.
Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome.
We've 14 languages now. We're adding, actually Zilin's working with all the translators, working very hard on this. We're going to be adding another 14 languages next year. And eventually we're going to be opening it up so that people can submit their own languages. Because we don't want to limit this. We want to build this tool which can be used to learn any language, and in a fun and engaging way. We don't want to be just hitting the big languages and leaving these other languages alone, because often the more interesting languages are the ones that are like Georgian or something very interesting and a bit different that's not taught in every school.
True. So my third question is on what are you working on at the moment? But it's as you said, you are still working on Earthlingo.
That's correct. Oh, sorry, Zilin.
Oh, yeah. In respect to Earthlingo, as Ray said, we'll be working on adding additional languages as we try to make sure that we encompass as many users as possible. We're also working on some new gameplay elements as well.
Mm-hmm. Can you say which ones?
I can jump into that. So right now the game is good at teaching. It teaches vocabulary in, I'd say, a pretty effective way. And the gameplay loop is kind of similar to like a Simpsons Hit a Run or a Grand Theft Auto, where like the fun is in navigating around the world and platforming in an interesting way. But right now the game does lack a few things, which I would say like is certainly a work in progress, because I wouldn't call it a complete game at this point. It doesn't really have a story or much progression through the game, and that's really what we're aiming to do. So we're working on an overarching story which will motivate the player, and then there are these malevolent robots which will be attacking the planet, and you'll be saving the humans from these robots. Again, using your language. So the idea is the more of the language you learn, the more powerful you get, and like you level up rather than your character leveling up. And that enables you to progress the story forward and to save the world from these robots which are attacking. So that's really what we're focusing on now. And it's like, how do we find the fun, and how do we make the battle system with these robots both fun as a gameplay loop, but also integrating that language in a really core way and keeping it all in context at the same time. So that's really what we're doing now, is finding these new gameplay loops, building it all to a story, and making it so that you can really progress the game forward as you become more powerful in the language.
Great. Awesome. So fourth question, how is Australia for indie developers? Like, what's great, and where do you still see room for improvement?
So there's long been an indie game scene in Australia. However, recently we've seen a lot more institutional support come in. So of course, you know that this year Australia is the partner nation for Gamescom, and that is due to the hard work of Chapter Jen Schroeder from IGEA, which is the Interactive Games and Entertainment Association, who have also worked with Screen Australia and Screen West to provide funding for individual games developers. I think we were mainly the beneficiaries of Screen West, but it was primarily Screen Australia who provided the overall games grant. So in that sense, we're seeing a lot more governmental support for the indie games industry.
Okay, that's awesome.
Yeah, there was always like a local community, and a game developer would get together, in a pub or a restaurant or something. And Melbourne has a facility called the Arcade, which is a really cool place where a couple of studios are based, and it's a place where game developers come together and network and meet each other. And I believe the Australian organisation IGEA, which deals with video games in Australia, I believe they're looking at expanding into other states with that. And so really, I'd say the main thing to improve would be it's really, really great to see all this government support come in for the games industry and trying to really start up these local game development communities. And I think really the improvement is just continuing to focus on that. And obviously you get the network effect as you get more studios starting in Australia. and more of this network of game developers to meet up with. So I think just if they keep focusing on it, I think the community will naturally develop into something more mature than the more grassroots things that we see right now.
Mhm. And what do you guys think should be improved?
Right. I think the direction that we're seeing right now with support from Screen West for ourselves, Screen Australia, and Screen Victoria, I believe, has also lent support to some of the other Victorian indie dev studios. This kind of institutional support, this knowledge that's being provided, as well as the monetary budget, is a direction we're really happy with seeing the government taking. I think it shows that this is an important thing for the country to focus on, and we're happy that this is the direction they're going, and we want to, in terms of improvements, we just want to kind of see this continue.
Yeah, the last 6 months to a year have been very exciting with all kinds of new things happening. And before that, to be honest, there wasn't we didn't see very much support, at least in Western Australia. But really, the last 6 months to a year has really been incredible how fast things are moving and how they're really getting behind this behind the game developer community in Australia. Yeah, something that would be good, and I believe IGA has interest in this. Maybe I shouldn't say it, but I'll let it out there. I have heard that they are interested in. So the arcade is, as I mentioned, this office space in Melbourne where game studios can be based and where they can work together in a really tight-knit environment. I believe there's interest in expanding that to other states, and I think that would just be wonderful because I've been to the arcade in Melbourne, and it's really just a really fantastic place where you just meet all these interesting people working on really fun games, and you can really just network in a really effective way.
And that should be even bigger, you think?
Oh, I think, yeah. I mean, having one of those in Perth would be amazing. I don't know if that's on the cards, but I would love to see something like that starting to develop in Perth. So rather than just have, like, the grassroots is great, being able to go out and hang out with developers, but having like a place where you can base your studio and you can be around other studios and sort of share your knowledge and it really just feels like it'd be fantastic to have something similar to that in Perth or in other states in Australia too.
Mhm. So fifth and last question. What moment in your life in the gaming industry will you always remember?
I think with our limited experience thus far, having this being our first game that we've been developing, we have dabbled in the industry before, but of course, not to the level that we think we will definitely get to, especially coming to Gamescom later this year. But so far, our most memorable experiences do happen to actually be involved with the burgeoning community that have seemingly existed amongst the users of Earthlingo.
Yes. So like the online reaction, and just the positive reactions we've had to the game. And I mean, as we said, the game is in a very early state. It's maybe 20 to 30% done. But we sort of put it out there like, hey guys, like, what do you think of this? We did, a few Reddit posts, and we really just got this amazingly positive feedback. And that was just a really big moment for us because, we were doing this little hobby thing and like, we can use this. Like me and Zilin can use this to practice, and maybe my kids can use it to practice some French or something. But then, then we put it out there and we got this just amazingly positive feedback from people and people were asking us to add new languages and, what if you change this and add this feature? And then people started streaming it on Twitch, which was incredible for us because it was completely grassroots. Like we weren't messaging people, and we're like, okay, well, people are actually, taking this on and making videos about it. And it was really wonderful to see like a Twitch streamer play the game, and you have a bunch of people joining onto their Twitch stream and they're learning the language with this person while having fun and enjoying the game. And it really just made me think, wow, this is really something that we can do. And this is just this really great way to share both video games and our love of languages, with the community. So really the online community has been amazing for Earthlingo. I was worried. I was like, people are going to be mean and they'll say, oh, your game's dumb and it's low poly and, it should be 4K, like, ray traced. But no, but people were super friendly and happy. And I think they really understood, like, not just like, okay, this is what the game is now, but, what can it become if we actually get it to that stage where as Zilin was talking about earlier, where you can play the game and then you can go to a bar and you can just strike up a conversation with someone from what you've learned in the game. So yeah, that's been the biggest positive experience for me. Like the community is so great.
It's always heartening, I would say, to like read comments of someone actually playing the game, enjoying the game, and saying like, "Oh, I can't wait till next year when this game is fully developed," and that just makes us think, "Oh well, we better get developing."
Then just for you, Steam there 1,045.
Well, we sort of released it as what it was. And I think if we hadn't had that positive response early on, maybe that's all it ever would have been, as like this little project. And it would have, essentially been like a fun prototype of, hey, look how you can use a video game to learn some vocabulary. But yeah, with the positive response and just, we thought, well, we really should finish this off and turn this into what we want it to be. So yeah, it is out. You can download it on Steam. You can play it on mobile devices. But it's really, and it's useful now. It's useful for learning vocabulary. But I would say it's not where we want it to be. It's not what we want to be finishing. What we want to end it with. And so really, we're aiming for end of next year for this to be, that pie in the sky idea that Zilin was talking about earlier, where it's this, this entire game experience, which has like this really, an interesting story that you can progress through. And then at the end, you're like, oh wow, I just happened to learn a language while playing this game. And that's really like end of next year on the horizon. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. But the game is officially not in early access, right?
No, it is available on Steam as a regular game to download. And that's because we didn't know where we were going with it at the start. But now we're like, we've got to finish this thing off. Yeah.
Okay, but that's good to know for people that there's still stuff coming. Of course, normally in the early access phase, you expect that something is coming. But yeah, after full release, maybe not so much. But yeah, so people wait till the end of next year. There's still new stuff coming then.
Oh yeah, we're going to be pushing out a lot in the next few months and through into next year.
Okay. Awesome. Well, thanks you guys so much for the short interview. And I hope you have fun at Gamescom and we see each other if you like.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Thanks for having us. Thanks for having us, Sarah. See you at Gamescom.
Thank you, Sarah. We'll see you there.
So I'm now here with Craig Ritchie, the studio owner of Drop Bear Bytes, an indie game studio in Australia. They are currently developing a narrative-driven RPG called Broken Roads. Craig, nice to have you here on the show.
Hey, Sarah. Thanks very much for inviting me.
So first question, could you maybe describe a scene for us from your upcoming game?
Well, look, we've got a lot of locations based in Western Australia. They're all well, look, it's post-apoc and it's about 100 or so years in the future. So we have taken a little bit of creative license, but for the most part, we've put a lot of effort into making them as authentic and realistic as possible. We've just come back, in fact, on Friday from a trip to Western Australia where we drove through many of the towns and locations you'll find in the game and took many photographs, and our audio lead Tim recorded sounds, authentic sounds of what the places sound like at night and so on. And the major standout was Wave Rock. So this is a place in Western Australia, absolutely worth looking up online. It's a natural rock formation that is just, it's really incredibly beautiful. It's got a lot of historical, cultural significance for the area as well. We're going to have some secrets there that I don't want to go too much into, or else it could be spoilers for the game, but it's absolutely going to be in there. We have already got some level design of it. Perhaps what we can do is send you the work in progress as good as it looks at the moment, and you can kind of feature that if you want. But for the most part, it's we've been doing our best to recreate things as close to the actual locations as possible. So I first went to Western Australia in 2019, and I drove through the first half of the game, took about 1,000 photographs, quite digitally, and we've been using those as references. And then we plan to go back in early 2020, but of course, COVID prevented that. And then we planned to go last year, and we couldn't even travel within Australia. So we finally, almost 3 years later, been able to go back and view sort of the latter half of the game, and had the most amazing trip last week. And I'm super excited for not only Wave Rock, which is going to be really beautiful, but also some of the other locations that you can only learn so much from Google Maps and image searches and that kind of thing. So yeah, Wave Rock, was a highlight of the trip, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how that comes together in the game.
Sure. Second question, why do you develop a traditional RPG?
Well, look, simply it's the genre that I love the most. I've been playing those kinds of games since the 90s, basically, starting with, I suppose, the Ultima games and the old Dungeons and Dragons games, and then in the later 90s, obviously Fallout 1 and 2 and the Baldur's Gate games and Planescape Torment, right through to, say, Disco Elysium more recently, Torment Tides of Numenera, the newer Wasteland games, the Pillars of Eternity, and the success of Kickstarter, and I think which did a lot to revive the traditional isometric RPG. So it's what myself and my co-founder Jethro, what we love to play the most, what many people on the team are incredibly passionate about, and what both our creative lead and our narrative director have also got really good experience on. All the way from Fallout 2 and Planescape Torment through to Torment Tides of Numenera as well. It's just what we love. I think that we can really tell great stories in Australia through this type of RPG that gives players a bit of freedom. It's not a hardcore action combat focused RPG, nor is it just a point and click adventure game. It lets you build your character as you go, and obviously super excited to see how players take to the moral compass, because that's what we feel we really bring in that's new, is put people in difficult post-apocalyptic situations and see how the characters they've made are going to handle that from, both from a puzzle solving and dialogue and relationships point of view, as well as the ethical and moral implications of some of the difficult choices that we're going to put them through. So yeah, a traditional style RPG also allows us to have that pulled back, elevated view of these beautiful locations in Western Australia. And yeah, like I said, it boils down to it's the genre that we love to play the most.
Yeah, it sounds fun. I can't wait. So third question, how is Australia for indie developers? What's good and where do you see some room for improvement?
Cool. Well, look, the main thing, I was touching on this with you earlier, is that we do have a lot of really good government support. There are many, many developers, both experienced and graduates, newcomers who are just finishing up their courses in university. Australia used to be a real, solid part of the international game development scene with a lot of government support, and then that kind of went away for a while. And a lot of Australia's most experienced developers, were pulled away to major international studios in Europe or North America. But with the incentives, the rebates, the government funding, all those initiatives that they're doing to encourage investment in the sector in Australia, it's actually attracting top talent back. So, for instance, we've been able to hire a narrative director and a gameplay animator from Ubisoft Montreal. They're originally from Brisbane, but were, in Ubisoft because that was just where some of the biggest and best games of the last few years were being made. But with the support of the government, we're able to have absolutely top tier talent, both brought back into the country and emerge and keep them, because there was a point where these good developers would be snatched up once they reached a particular experience level. So I'm hoping that that's going to change now that the government is once again identifying the value of investing in digital games as an export, and that Australia can be, one of the best, if not a leader in this industry. So, we have a lot of talent. We have really good support. We've got all the, the infrastructure and support that one needs. We've got quite a bit of experience spread around through different studios, a very, very strong indie scene over here, as well as a few, triple A studios, or triple A, like maybe double A or triple I, depending on how you define these things, studios doing some really, really good, high profile games, both on console and PC, and as well as mobile titles. So, it feels like we're riding a bit of a positive wave here that makes a change from, 10, 15 years ago, or what the last decade or so have been like. So in terms of room for improvement, I mean, one of the big things is we're so far from everybody, so we don't always get to go to, Gamescom and international PAX events and so forth. There's nothing really that can be done to improve that other than to continue having the kind of government support or publisher support that allows us to travel and get to these events and show off our games in person. But other than that, I really think we're on a very, very good track to see really cool, really inventive and original titles coming out of the indie scene, as well as establishing larger, major AAA studios that don't lose their talent to bigger ones overseas, thanks to the recent spate of government support that's been coming in.
Mm. And now for Gamescom, you've got a chance to go. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So we're super, super excited about that.
Final question. What moment in your life as an indie dev will you always remember?
Well, I mean, there's been so many, worked in a few game studios before taking the plunge to start my own. And that was a, daunting thing in itself. And there's been a lot of really key standout moments, including the first time we revealed the game and released our trailer in October 2019. And just to see people's reactions and comments was amazing. And then, a week later, we showed off the game at PAX 2019, and to see people playing and to see the reactions on the faces of people who would just like kind of walk by and stop and like stare at our trailer playing, recognizing that perspective, recognizing the dialogue system, just going, oh wow, like this is that traditional RPG that I love. You could see some people just like walk by, they have a look, they keep going, they want to get to the Xbox stand or see the new Call of Duty game. Great, no problem. But those that our title appeals to, those players who have the same passion for this kind of game as we do, you could see them stop like almost entranced and look at our trailer and go like, wow, this is singing to me. This is games that, reminds me of games that I loved 10, 20 years ago. And you could just see how it would attract a particular type of player. So that was an incredibly memorable moment for us.
Oh, that's great. Well, Craig, I wish you all the best for your game. Can't wait to play it. And yeah, we'll see you at Gamescom.
Fantastic. Thanks. Yeah, really looking forward to it.
I'm now here with Jonathan Bradley. He's the art director of ToastVR. Johnny, thanks for being here.
Hey, thanks for having me.
So you guys made Richie's plank experience where you're standing in VR on a plank 80 stories high. That was really, really scary when I played it. I had to close my eyes, to be honest.
Yeah, you're not alone. A lot of people end up doing that.
Yeah. So first question, on what projects are you currently working on? And maybe describe a scene from your current game.
The game I'm currently working on is unannounced, so I can't really go too much into it. But narrative focused would be the best way to describe it. Which is a shift away from the previous title, which is individual focused. This one actually has a story and has characters. Of course, it's in VR as well, and drawing on previous experience from RPE. I'm afraid I can't really go too much more into it than that. You'll have to wait till it's more announced.
Okay. Second question, why do you all focus on VR games?
I don't really have a definitive way of describing it myself. I'm quite new to VR, I have to say. Richard, who started the studio with Tony, they would probably have a more definitive answer, but I think it's just the way it is the feature of the way technology is going in some ways. Like the way they put it, I think I like the way they had their story. Why they started the studio is they went to like Japan on the honeymoon and played some VR and came back, and they're like, wow, that is just mind-blowing when they played it. Like, we have to kind of, get involved in this because it's where everything's going. And just the way, you put in a headset and you enter a whole new world, it changes how you feel and has lots of applications for, psychology as well as gameplay. Like RPE is a perfect example of some people get very freaked out and you go on the plank and you put the story drop and afraid of heights. Other people can just walk off the edge and be like, it's just, it's not real, it's fake. But I've seen plenty of people with sweaty hands and trembling, and my parents, they don't want to on the plank, they just go to the lift and they go straight down again. I'm like, no, that's good, I don't need to go out and do that. So it's quite surreal in that in itself is an amazing experience to be able to give people. So I guess to sum that one up, it's just giving people new experiences and new horizons, because you certainly don't get that vibe when you're not in VR. You don't get scared of heights when you're in there, and delighted, you're more amazed. Yeah, it's probably just a more impactful kind of experience when done right. It is quite tricky to develop for VR because there's so much more that goes into it. In some ways, you have to just consider things from 360-degree angles. You can't direct people with the usual tricks of like focusing the camera or, that kind of stuff. And so, yeah, developing for it can be entirely new experience. You have to kind of rethink how you're approaching stuff. A fun challenge, can be very frustrating at times, but also it's quite fun at the same time. And I think we see movie makers also have the same thing when they go and make a movie in VR, and all of a sudden you can't focus the camera in a certain way for a player to, or a viewer to look at, but instead you have to kind of capture their attention with a sound or some animation or a flickering light or something else. Yeah.
Third question, how is Australia for indie devs? Like, what's good about it, and where do you see room for improvement?
I think it's pretty good. There's a few studios popping up now. Australia's a very big country. It's obviously spread out between many thousands of kilometers. Like, lots of others. I think the geography defines Australia more than many other countries because everyone's quite isolated in some way from each other physically. Like, there's 5 to 6 major cities. There's lots and lots of towns and lots of people in between, but there's 5 to 6 major cities spread throughout the entire country, which is a continent in itself. And so you don't get to meet people face to face. So you go to the meetups so often, like you can't just drive an hour or 2 hours and it's a totally different kind of chapter in a way. I say chapter, thinking, I don't know how you'd say that for thing, but like in Brisbane, you get to see people in Brisbane or the Gold Coast, but then unless you fly for a couple of hours, you're not going to meet people in Sydney or Melbourne, and many indie devs are split between Queensland and New South Wales and Victoria, the different states. So that's probably the biggest challenges, I think, because you don't be able to get together as much. And the global financial crisis hit Australia, as everywhere, pretty bad with studios. So Brisbane had a lot of studios before that happened, like 8. And I was one of the people who graduated during that year, and I was like 7 studios shut down within a year. So kind of drained the talent very fast from the area because there wasn't as many opportunities. But I think that's growing. It's changing a bit more now, and most opportunities are more down in Sydney or Melbourne. But they're kind of more the bigger studios are down there. But then in Brisbane and Gold Coast, there's a few more kind of small ones popping up every now and again, which is nice to see. And I'd say it's kind of like a fairly tight community for people getting to know each other, because you just run into the same people over and over again. If you go and work in one studio, go into another, which is always pretty nice. Where I see like room for improvement, there's always just government subsidies help a lot get studios off the ground. Because obviously it can be quite expensive building a game. It can be quite cheap in some ways, but it can also be quite expensive if you want to expand upon the game. So subsidies always help with that and give people incentives. Yeah, that's generally how industries grow, I think. And I think like Victoria's seen that. Like Melbourne had probably the biggest incentives for a while, and they also have some of the biggest studios down there. So it, pretty much direct correlation, really.
So there's definitely more needed, like more funding and stuff.
Yeah, I think so. There's a lot of money can be made in games. It's obviously not always about the money, but it's what makes things drive and go around. And I think some people, like governments, are kind of waking up to it a little bit slowly. There's still definitely the stigma of like, oh, you're just games, just messing around, not doing anything serious or real. And you're actually like, oh, hang on, the games industry is as big as the music industry and the film industry combined together. It's even bigger. So like, oh, there's a lot of potential for that. And there's a lot of interesting designers in Australia, different way of looking at things sometimes. So a lot of potential for people to kind of people just need to get their foot in the door, really, which is a classic case. And to do that, it's really helpful when you can be around other people who have been doing things for a while, because there's a difference between getting out of uni and starting your own game versus more experienced people getting together, because you just don't have to make the same mistakes over and over again in that way, and people can learn from each other.
Yeah, cool. So final question, what moment in your life as an indie dev will you always remember?
I would say, well, it's probably not indie specific, but recently going to GDC was something I'll always remember. So that was nice. Obviously, it's always good to go to the big conferences and meet other like-minded people. And I hadn't been to America before, so that was really interesting. But being like an actual kind of more games focused on, well, GDC is games focused, but being more individual towards indie is just seeing when creations come to life after you've built them, bricked them, and given them to an animator, and then animators animated them. You're like, oh, this is really cool. It's actually moving. And then maybe like you develop further and put it in their game and add the systems, components, and controllers. And it's like, oh, now I can actually control my own character. And then kind of playing around with it. And it's like, wow, it's actually all starting to come together. All the plan, all the design, all the work. And you can, after getting that's great. And then iterating on that even further is also really rewarding. And you're kind of thinking, oh, okay, now we can tweak and refine it and make it better. You can upgrade it and, you know, replace the character, the model or FBX, and it pops back into existence with a new design or some new colors and it looks fresh. And you're like, wow, this is really quite addictive in a way. Is like building something greater than yourself. Yeah, just coming together as a team is always really good. Yeah, it's kind of quite a generalized thing, so it's not a specific moment. It's just always the first time it happens is amazing, and then it just, I'd say that's also just the same thing which makes me get back into games more and more, is that real-time feedback and being able to play with your own creations and build up that kind of stuff.
And now I have a special question, because you told me you play guitar and you're taking lessons. You mind playing? You mind playing something?
Yeah, like, actually left my guitar in the other room, so I still get it.
Do you like?
Yeah. One moment. Okay, well, I'm not sure how well this will record, but navigate.
Yeah, it's sure. Let's try.
Thinking before could play. It's quite a nice little acoustic guitar thing from The Last of Us Part 2, which is kind of quite nice. Probably end up butchering it, but we'll see. How is that? Can you hear that? Okay. Something like that. Still practicing and playing. Yeah.
That was awesome. Thanks so much. You play really, really nice. Really cool.
Thanks. Definitely lots of room for improvement, but it's good fun.
For me, it sounds awesome. So it's great. You're also playing sometimes music for games or something? Or are you planning?
Not yet. That would be really cool. Like mostly just guitar, but yeah, I like demoing along with friends and making soundtracks. It's music technology is a huge other avenue of stuff, which I'd love to play an instrument and somebody else develop it further, because I just don't have the time at the moment to learn all the ins and outs of putting everything together. It's definitely something I'll get into later though. But for now, yeah, just have to keep it easy.
Sure. Well, Johnny, thanks so much for all these insights. And yeah, we are very excited what project you are announcing soon. And yeah, keep us updated.
Oh, no problem. Really excited to show everybody what we've been working on. Yeah, thanks for having me.
Keep on playing guitar. It's awesome.
Will too. Cheers.
So at this year's Gamescom, around 37 studios are flying to Germany from Australia to attend at this great gaming event. And one of them is We Made a Thing Studios. I'm now here with Tom Phillips and Jeremy Kelly-Bakker, and their upcoming game is called Box Night. It's a action RPG roguelike. Hi, you guys.
Thanks for having us. Thank you.
So first question, could you describe a scene for us from your game Box Night and tell us what it's all about?
A scene. Yeah, so as you said, it's an RPG action roguelike, but so Box Night takes place in a cursed office tower where you have to fight your way through fantastical abstractions of all your most like toxic and depressive co-workers in your quest to fight your way up the tower and beat up the CEO who banned Friday night beers and brought this curse upon your workplace. So it's very sort of like cartoony and over the top, and so as you're playing the game, we want it to be just as sort of bombastic and loud and silly as possible. Lots of little gags always going on in the background, but also have it feel fast paced and replayable as well. So yeah, it's a very obnoxious game that hopefully entertaining and silly and attention grabbing as well.
And release is planned for October?
Do you want to go, Jess?
Oh yeah, I was just going to say, yeah. So we're aiming for early access in October, and the plan is to, from that point, continue to roll out sort of content for the game and do sort of regular updates as it slowly kind of heads towards that 1.0 release, which would hopefully, if all goes well, be first quarter next year. But all eyes are on the early access at the moment in October.
Okay, awesome. Second question, is it true that you're normally a film production company?
Yes, that we established in 2017. So both Jez and I are over 10 years in the film industry in both different sort of respects. I came from sort of a more writing and development and producing side, and Jeremy came from a high-end visual effects side. Hence, a lot of the art and assets and crazy animation in the game is very much all Jeremy. But yeah, so we established in 2017 and worked across film, TV, commercials, for the past 5 years now. So yeah, that's very exciting. But we always saw a wonderful crossover between film and game.
How's that?
Well, I think it always for us comes back to the project and what the right format for a project is. And I mean, we always wanted to work across lots of different things. We saw the media landscape as a whole was obviously changing, and we wanted to make sure we were ahead of things and we were across things like tech and basically technology that helped us tell these stories. So we were one of the first in Australia across virtual production. So definitely out of South Australia. I think we're the first short film that used the Unreal Engine to produce sort of a live action narrative short. And obviously The Mandalorian sort of got that all very, very sort of hyped in the industry. But we always saw more of a crossover with narrative and story. And Box Night was an idea that started in post-production on one of our other projects that we kind of wrote down. And we wrote it down as an animated series to start with. And it wasn't until speaking to a game developer who was literally next door to our office at the time. And they were like, have you thought about looking at game for this? And we were obsessed with the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles arcade game at the time. Very old, wonderful arcade game that still kind of holds up. And we were like, we'll do something really simple and we'll do it quick. And that was, I think, 3 years ago now, 2.5 years ago at least.
Yeah, well, a quick project in and out. Turns out it's a total lie. So
yeah. So but we always knew we wanted to work in games, but it had to be the right time. It had to be the right project. And Box Night just sort of transitioned well. And it did start as a joke, and it's just kind of ballooned from there to something, obviously, we've spent a lot of time and effort, and we're just incredibly proud of and really excited to see where it is at the moment.
Mm-hmm. And that's your very first game, Box Night, right?
Technically, yes. We did do a little augmented reality companion game to one of our web series, Lucy and Dick, which we never fully released publicly, but we did a closed beta that we probably will eventually release and probably near the end of this year, actually, because we'll be doing a bit more of a run of that kind of content. But that's very much, yeah, I wouldn't even call that a game. More so, it is a companion piece to the series. What do you think, Jez? Is that the best way to describe that as an app?
Yeah. Well, because all the projects that we do have a lot of high concept to it. So we do a lot of fantasy, a lot of sci-fi, and we lean into that sort of visual effects skill set quite a lot. And for the show that we'd made, Lucy and Dick, it was all about a talking, floating, animated robot, with a girl. And the actor that we sort of got to do that, a guy called Aussie Man Reviews, has just this like wonderful foul mouth and can swear in the most amicable, friendly ways possible. So we had this very, very rude robot, and we were like, well, let's put it in an AR app, and you can float around, and he'll hurl abuse at you, and you'll poke him in the face, and you'll get annoyed, and you can take photos with him. And it's a little bit silly, but the character is called Dick, so he's our digital intelligence companion. But because you can take photos with him, you could take and share your dick pics with people. So you could take your photos with Dick and be like, share your dick pics with us, which is, playing with fire a little bit there, but, it made us giggle at the time.
Me too. It's great. So third question, how is Australia for indie devs? What do you think is great, and where do you see room for improvement?
That's a really interesting question. I think there's a big groundswell of support that's happening again now. There was quite unfortunately during the global financial crisis, we saw, particularly in Australia, a lot of games companies shut down. And so there was this entire generation of developers that kind of moved out of the country. They went to much bigger companies overseas, and it's sort of the Australian games industry, as far as I'm aware, is going through something of a bit of a renaissance right now, as this next generation of devs are sort of finding their feet. And, the government organizations are also catching on as well, where they're seeing it as more and more of a legitimate business. And so there's some really, really good initiatives that have kicked off, like, various sort of startup funds and, ways for people to sort of raise money for their projects to get those prototypes and those alphas together. So, yeah, I think since we sort of started Box Night, which was fairly early on in a lot of these things, sort of these institutions kind of catching on, in the last 3 years, the amount of opportunities interstate and then federally has grown quite a lot and is getting a lot more press. So I think we're sort of just at the beginning of seeing, I think, a pretty big expansion in the Australian games industry. So it's an exciting time to sort of be finding our feet in this space.
Yeah, and I think the follow-on from that, I mean, like you mentioned at the start, Sarah, was like we're one of a handful, actually a couple of handfuls of companies going over to Gamescom that's really been made available to us because of the support from our government. And, that's just ridiculously exciting to have that level of support and probably confidence that taking us across to a place like Gamescom with such a spotlight and such a reach is really exciting. And I'm looking forward to seeing more of that in the future. But yeah, from our perspective, we're just incredibly stoked and kind of humbled to be a part of that group of incredibly talented devs that are going over, because there's some pretty damn exciting games in that bunch. So yeah.
Well, there's people that are going along with our sort of cohort that we are just like legitimate fans of, like not even sort of, sucking up at all, like people whose work we really, really admire. So the opportunity to spend some proper time with them, pick their brains and share stories and stuff, like we're really, really psyched to be able to actually be getting some one-on-one time with people whose work like we aspire towards. It's such a privilege.
Yeah, I can imagine. Sure. Still, is there something you would wish for? Something that where you say, well, Australia need to change in that sort of way?
Yeah, no, you got this.
Oh, I was just going to say, like, I think because, Australia did have that very sort of unfortunate, lag in shutting down of companies. I think what we're starting to see now are the larger companies moving back. We're seeing sort of the more sort of established, the sort of larger corporations getting a bit more of a presence back in Australia. And so, look, I think what would be, that we'd love to see change, and I think is already slowly changing, is more direct face-to-face, what's the word I'm looking for, opportunities to interact and collaborate with some of these people and build relationships. Like being in Australia, we are, and it's the same for film as well, we are quite isolated from the wider industry. And, so there's opportunities that might present themselves in Europe or America that we simply don't have here just because of that face-to-face access and that ability to build trust and, a rapport and things. So yeah, I think seeing larger organizations here that can enable the smaller teams would be very exciting.
Sure.
Yeah. I think at that top end, that's spot on. But I think, the interesting thing, and I know a lot of game devs would go through it, but it's sort of that awareness from public and the acceptance from, I guess, the general public that it is a very, very legitimate and a ridiculously growing industry. So it is interesting. Like we come from a very small town or city in Australia, and it is interesting to speak to a few general public, and when they ask what we're working on, if we're talking about a film project, there is somewhat more of an acceptance. But as soon as we start talking about a game, it's like, oh, okay, that must be a little bit of fun. Whereas we're very much seeing, the model of games and devs, and like it's a faster growing industry. So I think it's really exciting to see. Well, I think the people in power are very much seeing that, and it's moving that way. So that trend is looking good, and something we're pretty pumped about.
So my fourth and last question, what moment in your life in the gaming industry will you always remember? Or is that moment maybe still to come?
Probably still to come, but we've got a few little bits and pieces. Tom's got a good one.
Yeah. Like on that, I guess we've produced content for over a decade and sort of, worked our asses off, put stuff up on the screen and watched it with audiences. And I think with film, I've never truly enjoyed sitting down and watching our work with an audience. It's always because it's quite a watching cinema, TV. It's somewhat a passive experience. Whereas game dev and playing a game is very active, and what you're creating as a developer and the storyteller from the game side of things is basically you're giving them the sandbox, and they're the ones who are going to explore it. And I think now that we've got the game to a point where it's looking good, it's playing really nice, and we've got to get it in the hands of some public, watching them play it has been like truly groundbreaking because it's enjoyable, which is something I haven't, as a creative, haven't really, it's always nice to having written and having created, but the actual process of sitting down at cinema, watching your work with other people is tough. But the game side of things really did pop for us. And it was just crazy to see how, people kind of unlock what you've made and make it better. And that process and that sensation was something I wasn't ready for. And it definitely took me by surprise.
Yeah, to have people sort of interacting with your content and also exploring it in a different way and finding different patterns and rhythms and things you never even thought of before. Working with content and TV and film and stuff, it's such a curated thing and you've controlled every little aspect of it. Whereas this, there's just a degree of randomness and chaos that you can't account for. Like that player input, it becomes legitimately entertaining. And as Tom was saying, the anxiety that comes with presenting a film it wasn't there in the same way as it is with presenting a game. It was quite a joy to see people laughing and playing around and being grossed out by the big splats and, making sounds when they do a really cool move. And it was such an interactive, fun experience.
Yeah, cool. So yeah, guys, thank you so much for the interview and for being here. And it's really great that you're coming to Gamescom this year.
Cheers, Sarah. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Cheers, Sarah.
I'm now here with two guys from Beastborn Games, with Daniele Martinez and Martin Langer. They are currently developing the game The Orphan, a pop-up book adventure. And they're now here with me. Hi, you guys.
Hello.
Hi.
Nice to have you here. First question, could you describe a scene from your current game, The Orphan?
Okay, our actual game has only one level yet, but we have, of course, storyboards for every book page, aka levels. Pop-up books, right? Imagine you open up a page of a book and then the whole level unfolds. Our biggest level to be is the level of the orphanage. When this level unfolds, a dark building opens with 3 floors. In each level, you have something we called the story main element. When this gets opened, the real magic of the pop-up book elements begin. The pictured elements of the flat paper start to grow out of the flat paper until they're relief-like. Pictured figures may come to life and start move around. In the orphanage level, we have the supervisors that come alive, and the player needs to navigate and escapes from them. And because the ground level is still out of paper, the character has to use scissors and glues to create ways through the level.
Well, there's this room and then there's a book, and when you open it up, then you play inside the book, right?
Yes, exactly. It's like in the which movie was it? The second movie of Harry Potter where they get sucked into the book. You open the pop-up book, you start interacting with it, and everything turns. A white light comes out of the book. You are getting sucked into the book, and then the pop-up book is your game world. Not the attic where the pop-up book was laying, where you started moving around at the beginning, but the pop-up book itself is the game world. And all levels are built in a similar way. Of course, from the folding mechanics, they are completely different in each level. So we have a really nice variety of levels. But all have the same part with the main story element. When you unfold it, everything grows out, everything becomes alive. The music changes from the attic, silence attic, to in the canalization. Then we have rats squeaking around, water dropping and flowing, which you are then also able to hear.
Sounds really interesting. Second question. So you already before Gamescom, you put out a demo on Steam. What player feedback did you get so far?
Yeah, we have our demo out on Steam since the last Gamescom, not this one.
Okay.
Yeah, and you are actually playing an early version of the third level. The general feedback is positive because everyone loves the concept and the idea of the pop-up books. And we had a few streamers playing it where we also were then able to talk during the stream with them. And they had really positive feedback, especially not just because of the childhood memories of pop-up books, but also, as I mentioned, mostly because of the idea and the concept, because something like that did not really happen often and not in the way how we are doing it. There are like 2 pop-up games out, but they're not really pop-up book games, only games with pop-up elements. And everybody loves our rats during playing the game demo. They're like, oh my god, they're so cute, they're so cute. They are kind of dangerous and try to kill you, but everybody thinks, oh my god, they're so cute.
I think I would be that person as well.
And you should come during the games come to our stand, because we will have some stickers of the rats.
Ooh, I'll be there right now. Did you also get some player feedback where you were saying, okay, that's something we still got to work on?
Yeah, we have. It's not bug free, of course. It was a prototype which we converted in 1 month to a demo.
Okay.
During the whole week of the Gamescom, I think we had like 5 new versions. Also each day a new version released with the new bugs that gamers found.
Yeah, we learned a lot the last year, and right now we are working on fixing most bugs. Almost every that you cannot break the game, and making it better. So I have like hundreds of little tweaks I want to do, but we will see how much time I have and how many I can finish.
The demo for this year, it will be mainly, of course, the same because it's the same level. But we make some adjustments in the cutscenes, we make some adjustments in bug fixing, and then also where we found out, okay, a few mechanics they're not really needed to play the game. They were like really nice to have, but they are making the game out of scope, basically, because we don't need them. You can do that, but it was like, okay, yeah, in a game, in a sort of small action adventure, usually you are able to jump, but when you never use the jumping or need to jump, you don't really need it.
Yeah. Okay. So that's something you cut out.
Yeah.
Okay. Great. Third question. What's great about being an indie dev and what's rather difficult?
The good things is you can work on your own time. So you have to make a plan and work on a steady pace, but you have the freedom to do the stuff you want to do.
This freedom is great. Marty mentioned doing the sitting down and saying, okay, now I'm working. That's the hard part, one of the hard parts.
And what's rather difficult?
Paperwork, a lot of paperwork. Yes. You have to establish a company. Then something like taxes are coming, which you never had to think about in your life before. There is a lot of paperwork to go through to figure out how to do that, because no one teaches you in university. When we both studied video games studies, but no one teaches you how to do paperwork or how to do how to manage a company, basically.
Yeah, that's something I don't get even in schools, I think. The teachers don't teach you how to make financial plans or how to watch how much money you have.
Yeah, how to use it, how to make a plan. Okay, we estimations in a span for 18 months. We need this amount of money because we have to pay that. The artist, something from someone from music. Then okay, yeah, shit. We also need QA, which you don't think about, but because that comes at the end, at the last 3 months only. But you also have to calculate it in. Yeah, in a school or university, no one teaches you how to do a financial plan. No one teaches you how to manage a company, how to establish a company, because because they just don't do that, which is really sad. And a lot of indie developers probably have then these struggles at the beginning, and then ask a lot of questions to Google or to friends they might have, which are already maybe have done this step.
So final question, you two. What moment in your life as an indie developer will you always remember?
Yes, for me, so we have a spider in the game, and the movement of the spider is so the legs work with physics and stuff. It's not just animation, and I worked a really long time that works correctly. So literally, I had like weekends where I just was screaming at my screen, and then it works correctly, and it's wonderful. And one streamer in for the DevCom, I think it was, saw that and got scared for 2 seconds, like that. But I saw that it was.
So you made a good job there.
Yeah, and I'm even right now I'm making it more stable.
Yeah, even reworked spider because it looks great, but it can always look better.
Yeah, but the thing is, it already did problems again, and like I was working half a day to find out why my spider is dabbing all the time.
Okay.
We also had a spider doing a squid once. When a spider which has like his long arms or legs, his long legs, which are actually quite steady and like our legs basically, because there's something a straight line, then you have the leg, a straight part, then you have a joint, another straight part, you have a multiple because the legs of a spider are really long. And at one point, they just started to make a movement like a squid. And when we were like, okay, shouldn't this be like more straight and not like that movie?
Yeah, but technically now we can easily do a squid.
You just have to reverse the correct code to the broken one. Yeah.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, I think for me, the part I will always remember is like the first interview I had, not as an interview, not as a person who gets interviewed, but the person who has to interview someone that you want to get as employee. That's like a part. So okay, now I have to ask the question, and now I have to make sure that I sound professional and that I make a serious, not face, but a serious. Then seems serious our business basically.
Like a poker.
Yeah, like a poker face. I think that was like is a part that I would always remember. And at the beginnings, we did not have an office, so we met in a coffee at a.
All right. Yes. Okay. Yeah. So did Martin apply or?
No, we founded a company together. Martin was thinking from the beginning.
Okay, great. Really, really cool, you two. Thanks so much for the insights in the interview, and I can't really wait what else you will do with your Orphan, how the game looks like in the end, and yeah, see you at Gamescom.
Thank you. Let us know how the demo was after you played it.
I'll do that, definitely. I get the feedback.
Perfect. Thank you.
then see you at the Gamescom.
In this special Gamescom episode, we look at the studio which is located exactly in the city where Gamescom is taking place. That is Cologne in Germany. The name of the studio is Mellow Games, and the founder is Melanie Taylor, who is now here with me. Hi, Mel.
Hi.
You are currently developing a very emotional game, a story platformer called Blueberry. Question 1, describe a scene for us from your game.
First of all, I'd like to say Blueberry is a mix between platforming and minigames, and the minigames are sort of the focus. So it's actually quite fitting that you asked to describe the scene, because it's mostly made out of these story-focused minigames, which are scenes from her memory. And I guess one good example is that as a child, you sort of try to get cookies in the kitchen, and you climb up the kitchen shelves to get those cookies, and put pots and pans on top of each other in order to get at them. And these mini games are sort of focused very much on these little scenes, which can be very broad things in her life, since the game is divided into 4 life phases. So it's child, teen, adult, and elderly lady. And as the child phase sort of progresses, it's kind of focused on like more physical mini games. And as you're a teenager, it starts to focus more on dialogue, and then it goes more in that direction. Yeah, I hope this was a good description. It's very different in each life phase, is what I'm trying to say.
What inspired you to make such an emotional game, and also about topic mental health?
It's mostly personal experiences, and sort of, I guess the biggest focus is sort of that since I'm 37 years old now, the topic of having children was more and more in focus in my life. And I was thinking about, well, am I even fit to be a mom? And I think that a lot of people who are like in their 30s might go through these thoughts and maybe wonder, will I make the same mistakes as my parents? And especially if you have family members with mental health problems or have them yourself, these decisions are super difficult, because it's proven that these things are often hereditary and passed on to children. So I think that was sort of the starting point I had, and the reason why I wanted to focus on this topic of being a mom, and also on mental health, and also changing of perspectives. Like at the beginning, she's a child herself, and then later she has her own child, and you also replay scenes that are quite similar to when you were a kid, only now you're the mom. So I thought that was quite interesting, this core idea of changing perspectives and as you age, with a focus on mental health.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Question 3. What's great about being an indie developer, and what's rather difficult for you?
Well, I have to say I generally love being an indie developer. It's like my heart and soul is tied to it. But it's also very anxiety-inducing sometimes. Like you never have financial stability. And even if you have a successful game, which I'm very lucky that I had with Orwell a few years ago, it's still very tough to be sustainable as a studio. And my studio is tiny. Right now, it's just me. I was working with freelancers on Blueberry in the past, and it's like manageable, but it's also a lot of responsibility. Like you want to pay the people that you work with well, and you want to be a good leader, but you also need to finish the game. And it's really, really tough to make these decisions, especially with budgeting and financing the game. So yeah, that's the sort of downside. But the great thing is, of course, creative freedom, which is wonderful. And it's also just great to make games, the kinds of games that you want to see out there. That's something I really enjoy.
Mm-hmm. And Orwell, that was a game where you co-worked with a team?
Yeah, so I co-founded Osmotic Studios in Hamburg. That was in 2014. And then we released Orwell in 2016. That was together with 2 friends from uni. And then we released a follow-up, a season 2 for Orwell in 2018. And that was when I left the studio and started Mellow Games afterwards.
All right. Okay. Question 4. What moment in your life as an indie dev will you always remember?
I think I have a fun story about this, because So when we were releasing all, this was like the first studio I founded was Osmotic Studios after studying. And of course, we were quite inexperienced. We didn't know whether anyone would play our game. And at least I thought that not many people would. But we released the game in episodes. So 5 episodes it was in total, and 1 episodes per week. And the last episode was super late, so it was really tough, and we had to work until like 3 a.m. And there were actually people in the Steam forums who were sort of waiting for the last episode to come out because it was a story-focused game. They wanted to know the how the game ends, and were super curious and super happy. And they were just so nice. And we're really like, we got emails saying, take your time, it's okay. We want the game to be the best it can be. And there was one guy who was on a ship for some reason, for work reasons, I think. And he said, I hope that the game comes out before my ship leaves because I want to have internet. And then people were just talking to each other and were sort of waiting together in the Steam forums for the game to come out. And that was an extraordinary experience. Like, it's just the best thing about it, I would say, is really hearing player feedback and seeing that people enjoy your game and are really interested in how it turns out. So that's lovely.
Yeah, sure. Awesome story, Mel. Thanks so much for this, and see you at Gamescom.
Yeah, see you then. Thank you.
Gamescom is back and happening now in Cologne in Germany. And as always, tons of new games are getting announced, especially indie games, I would say. One of them is called Saga of Sins. It's a 2D action adventure which is being developed by the German indie dev studio Bonus Level Entertainment. One of the founders is Rupert Oxner, and he's now here on Open Indie. Hello, Rupert.
Hi, Sarah. Thanks for having me.
Hi. First question, describe a scene for us from your current game, Saga of Sins.
You, Cecile the cleric, wake up in your private little chamber of the chapel of Sinwell. And you ask yourself, after you just had another terrible nightmare, is this righteous what we are doing here? Why is my superior master Ulrich forcing me to enter people's minds in the form of a hideous creature to fight the 7 deadly sins? Can we really stop the plague from spreading this way? Do I sacrifice my soul, or am I just losing my mind?
So you are forced to do something.
Yes. So as you can see, I picked a story sequence to describe my game. And it's this inner conflict the avatar, this is Cecile the cleric has. Because, what you can see from the trailer that we just revealed is that, we are a 2D action adventure. We have a cool arcade gameplay that is very rewarding. We have this unique stained glass art style. But what you don't see in the trailer is that we also have and put a lot of time and passion into the story of the game. So it's a very thrilling mystery story. And this is what I wanted to communicate to the people by picking this inner conflict scene, this inner monologue Cecile has when he wakes up in his chamber.
Second question, you also mentioned it. Your art style is very special. Like the whole world you play in is made up of stained glass. Why did you design the game that way?
That's a good question. And so often in life, it was like step by step that led to this stained glass art style. First of all, the main source of inspiration for this game is the Dutch painter Hieronymus Bosch, who was born 1450. And since I'm a kid, he's my favorite painter because of his crazy and creative paintings. Yeah, when I was designing this game, I asked myself what game would fit into the world of Hieronymus Bosch. And then the second question was, what art style are we going to choose? So when it comes to the art style, for us, doing it in an oil painting glass style was never an option because this wouldn't fit to the arcade style gameplay of the game. And then we thought maybe we do it in pixel art because our first game, Fox and Forests, was a quite nice pixel art game. But then quite early on, I had the idea of doing it in stained glass because it's unique, because it really fits perfectly to the setting of the game, and because you can do really, really cool stuff when it comes to lighting effects or when it comes to the game itself. So for example, the end bosses, you have to shoot them into pieces, glass fragment per glass fragment. Or the regular enemies, when you shoot them, then they get cracks and they get more cracks and then they shatter into pieces. So we think that the stained glass offers a lot of surprising gameplay varieties to the gamer.
That sounds cool. Third question, what's great about being an indie dev and what's rather difficult for you?
So the really great thing about making indie games is that the teams are quite small. So sometimes it's really more like working not with colleagues, but within a family. And what I like about this is that everybody knows what the other people are doing. So it's also possible for everyone to contribute to the game, to have ideas, and then you will see your own ideas and your own work reflecting in the game. So that's what I really, really like. And I have to say, I'm very, very proud and thankful for the team at Bonus Level Entertainment who did such a great job on Saga of Sins.
What's difficult about being an indie dev?
Well, the difficult thing is that I think the budgets are really still way too low, because always once in a while there is the story of this one or two guys that develop a game and then they get rich. But if you want to get rich, you really shouldn't work in the games industry. And then this kind of distorts the whole budget situation, right? I mean, we at Bonus Level, we have with families to support. For us, these are regular jobs, and we need the money, and it's a very, very hard and difficult work. So it's important that the team is not too small and that you get a fair payment for it. So the budgets really have to get better, and I hope that with Saga of Sins we can finally prove to the world that we are capable of doing fun games, and that good work has to cost good money.
Fourth question, what moment in your life as an indie dev will you always remember?
To be honest, thankfully, there were already quite some moments I remember dearly. One was, of course, the Fox and Forest Kickstarter campaign. It was successful. Then another very, very great moment was when we got funding from the FFF Bavaria and from the BMWK of the German government for Saga of Sins. But still, I would say my favorite moment is that when our first game, Fox and Forest, launched, PlayStation Universe gave us a 9 out of 10 rating, and they said that we are one of the, for them, we are one of the best games, indie games of the PlayStation 4 area. So it's made us very happy. I mean, I know life shouldn't be about numbers, right? But I do have to say it has really kept me going, because making indie games is also very demanding sometimes. And so, it really motivated me to, try again with a new game to get ratings like this.
Sure, awesome. Well, I wish you all the best for Saga of Sins, and we'll see you at Gamescom.
Yeah, thank you so much. See you at Gamescom. And once again, the game is playable for everyone at the Indie Arena booth, and we would be very happy to welcome people and try out Saga of Sins on their own for the first time.
Hello, I'm Andreas Bøcker from Octato. I'm the director of Airhead.
Andreas, nice to have you here.
Thank you.
So Airhead is this 2D puzzle adventure. You play as Airhead. He needs to find air tanks to keep his head inflated so he can continue his journey. We have prepared 3 questions for you for this Gamescom special this year. Ready?
Yeah.
So first question, how did you come up with this?
I had that old idea where I had this head that was running out of air. So it actually fit the idea that I wanted to use in the game, that I wanted to make a game about. That whole sort of thing in life where you get in those situations where you don't really grasp the whole situation and you have to make fast decisions, and how that ends up maybe changing the world, or turned out that it wasn't the right thing you did, or something like that. So that was actually where we just started to use that head in a bigger game than the original very small Flash game I made.
Second question, with what did you struggle the most during the development of Airhead?
Yeah, we had when we started making it, and that whole idea about this efficiency in solving the puzzles, where you have like that time lock with the head. It turned out to be a very big frustration for people when they are solving puzzles. So the whole balancing thing with the puzzle has definitely been the hardest part, because it was kind of we knew it would be risky, and also with the full Metroidvania-ish open world thing with the thing also made the whole balancing a lot harder, because it's harder for the people who are playing it to know exactly what their goal is and everything. So that whole fun frustration balance has been the hardest to meet all the way through the game.
And final question, what part of the game are you really proud of?
Really proud of I think the whole ending and the whole like sort of when you suddenly realize that there's more to the game than just this crazy idea about a character with a head, but the whole environment is involved and all the creatures you have met ends up in a final resolution in the game, and especially if you explore even more and get deeper into the story. I think I'm really proud of how we got that whole thing put together, and that it actually meets my original ideas and what I wanted to do with the game. I'm very proud that we succeeded in that, I feel.
Okay, so is there also a twist at the end?
Of course. And then maybe you wouldn't even notice it because it's part of the whole puzzle thing. Also solving the story is also, so it's gonna be between the lines, some of the things, but the twist should be obvious.
Okay. Yes. Curious to find out. Thanks, Andreas, so much, and have fun at Gamescom.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Julian Gatumel. I'm the lead writer of Sunlone Studio. And yeah, our team started 5 years ago now, I think. We started very little, working to looking for help to fund our games, and we started doing games. We did, after a lot of years of basically training ourselves after the studies, we made a game to kind of get out there, to have a self-published game so we could be out there, called Emma Lost in Memories. And after that, after going to Gamescom and other times, we were able to meet with Handy Games, and we basically, after some time started talking, and they were interested with the exits, and finally we got here because they agreed to sign us, and
Yeah, cool. Yeah, the exit, DE minus exit, Eternal Matters, a cinematic voxel adventure in which you die at first, but you wake up again in a surreal world which is starting to collapse, and you need to save it by being stealthy, solving puzzles, and trying to be a hero. So for our Gamescom special episodes this year, we prepared 3 questions for you. You ready? Okay, cool. So first question, in your press release, it says that you want to create fun games, of course, but the exit also has a message. Which one is it?
So the idea with the game, at the end of the game it's a game about death and life. We not only want to tell a story that is quite an epic story about saving a world. You, as a character, die in the beginning and appear in this place that was supposed to be heaven. But you realize that there's kind of an apocalyptic event going on. So you will need to save the world. So that's the main story, the main thing the players will see. But there's a backstory, a back message about it. On one side, about simply death. You will find a lot of characters along the way that have died and that share their view and their how they died to come here. So there's a lot of very intimate stories about their death and how it all went. There's also a little bit of a reflection about illness and recuperation and how illness can destroy a person of a world. But that's kind of a more subtle message that players will need to find.
So second question, with what did you struggle the most during the development of the exit?
Good question. What do you think? ¿Qué nos costó más? What was more difficult for us when developing?
The vision meetings.
Yeah, because when this game is last 5 chapters, and so when we start a chapter, for example, the prologue that you can see in the demo, this is basically this mountain range with ruins. So we do a meeting and say, okay, how it's gonna look, how it's gonna be. So Gabriel has the main vision of the game, he's being the creative director, but then we see, okay, this will not work because we just had a night level before, or this will not work because we want to convey happiness in this chapter. So this mechanic, we tried it, our lead programmer tried implementing it, and it really doesn't work on it, really not easy to implement. So we kind of, okay, this does not work, what do? We panic now. Thankfully, we have week-long meetings about this, so we can iterate and say, okay, this will not work, this will work. And I think I like these meetings as well. They are stressing, but as well, we started learning how to do them well, to divide the team. So I'm lead writer, so I go on my side, I start to think about the narrative side. Same thing with the lead artist, and then we come back and we put it all together. Yep.
Cool. And final question, what part of the game are you really proud of?
What part of the game? I mean, it would be cheesy to say everything in it, but to be able, and that is, I think, something that as a company when we started we didn't realize, and we have seen a lot of developers that were recently starting now and asking for tips, and it's like, to have something finished on this level of polish and all that is what I'm most proud of. To really have a product that is completely finished, that is amazing. And I think the word polished as well, to not only have something finished and that's it, but something that we took care, polishing little details. Gabriel introduced a lot of main cinematics, but also a lot of secret cinematics you only get if you explore a little bit to the left or a little. And yeah, I'm very proud of all this.
Okay, cool. Well, great. Well, thanks so much, and good luck with the game, and have fun at Gamescom.
Have fun, you too. Thank you.
Perfect. Yes, so my name is Adam Stjernljus, and I'm the creative director and lead game designer at Wishfully. And here with me is my co-director,
Claes Eriksson, and I'm also the scriptwriter for Planet of Lana.
That's right. And so we're making a game called Planet of Lana, and it's a side-scrolling sci-fi puzzle adventure where you play this young girl called Lana. She's 11 years old, and she's forced out on this epic adventure with a mission to save her big sister that's been taken away by this invading robot army. And you do that together with this cute little creature that you come across, Mui, and together you go out on this adventure.
I love Mui.
Oh, thanks. So do we. Yeah, we really wanted to create, that's what we think is fresh and what we're bringing fresh to the genre is really this companion-based mechanics. And we were asked quite often, like, can you play as Mui? Can you play cooperatively? But we really didn't want that. It was a very conscious decision from the get-go because we want to create that kind of special bond that you can have in real life with a dog. So it's really, the game is really about also the relationship between Lana and Mui and how that's unfolds. And then, of course, as well, the main mission of finding her sister and, realizing why the robots have come to this planet and, figuring it all out. And yeah, and we're a small studio based in Sweden, in Gothenburg. And we're around 18 people working on the game right now. And yeah, it's actually our first game that we're making. And we've been doing it for 5 years now. Yeah. So a long time coming.
And me and Adam have been working together. We've known each other since we were like 12. And we've been working together almost since like high school. So it's a long time coming.
Yeah. Yeah, and we're also coming from background in film and animation before. And several of us in the studio has that background. And we think, sometimes it's quite nice to come in with fresh eyes. Also, you have a lot of experience from a different field, and then you come into games with that, kind of the sense of discovery. And yeah, it's been great. And I think all the experience that we brought has really impacted like the way we create games a lot. What do you think?
Yeah, for sure. And it also like opens up a lot of possibilities as well. Like I think, you come in like you're really used to a super linear format, and then like all of a sudden you have this interactive element to sort of add to the mix, and it's been so much fun. And now we're hooked. We don't want to do anything else ever again, I don't think. So
no, that's correct.
Okay. So first question, you said you are on this alien planet, there are buildings and machinery, which were kind of mysterious. How did you get all these ideas for this world?
I mean, it's really been a mix of different things. We're definitely inspired by Studio Ghibli, and especially Miyazaki in his films, like Spirited Away and Ponyo and Totoro in these films. But it's also a mix of, games that we grew up with as kids. I grew up with games like Another World and Flashback and Oddworld and these games. And yeah, it's just a mix of inspirations. There's also like modern games, of course, like indie games like Limbo and Inside. And yeah, it's a mix of films, games, and, yeah. And for you?
Yeah. What was the question again? Guess even Adam painted this beautiful key art here that we've really been using since the beginning. And like, for me, it was really a matter of like seeing that, like it just evokes so many questions to me. Like, it's okay, where is this place, first of all? Who is this girl? Who's this little monkey creature thing that she's with? What's this robot? What does it want? And like coming at it from a story perspective, I think that was the first jumping off point for me, like just trying to answer all these questions and then like us discussing that together. And that really is the foundation of like, where I came at. And then like Adam said, like so many inspirations from like, games and movies and stuff that we played. I'm a huge Miyazaki fan as well. On the game side for me, because I'm very sort of focused on the storytelling in the game, like because I'm the writer and obviously co-directing. I'm a huge Final Fantasy fan, like Final Fantasy 7. Yeah, it's like it's my whole childhood, that game. And like one of my favorite things about that game is like how like they're telling such a like deep immersive story with such little means, you know what I mean? Like it's just like these little like really blocky polygon like characters, but like you really feel for them the whole like game. And that was a huge inspiration for me. It's like, okay, like you can actually tell a really complex emotional story with pretty simple means. And that was like a really good jumping off point for me, like a reference that I could sort of relate.
So second question, what is or was the most difficult part in developing Planet of Lana?
I mean, it's been so many things that's been difficult on this journey, I would say. I mean, I think we're just so lucky that we were able to, because this is our first game. So it took a few years before we got funding. So we did it in our spare time. We're quite a few like our founders of the studio, and we were able to do other jobs on the side and then work on this game. But it really enabled us to have like more than 2 years of pre-production where we could really try out stuff, and get the puzzle design and the game mechanics just right. And also just, converting this concept art that we did, and that's because we wanted this hand-painted feel, but just having time to experimenting and finding this like 2.5D look that we have now, which is kind of like a mix between 3D and 2D, but still keeping this hand-painted look. So, yeah, I mean, it's been a lot of difficult things, but I think just it's also been such a journey, and as we've said that to each other so many times that we've just done this. What drives us forward is just we get to work with so talented people every day, and it's just so fun seeing like everyone in the team and how they participate and adds to like creatively to the product. It's just been a really nice journey. What do you think has been the most like challenging thing?
Yeah, I think I was thinking about it as he was sort of talking, and I liked one of the things definitely like coming from film is that you're so much more in control in film, you know what I mean? Like it's like the difference between building an actual world in video games to like building like a set piece of a world in movies, and like you can jump in time and like you can curate the world in a completely different way. In a video game, you literally have to build a whole world, and then you have to account for the fact that someone might be stuck for like 20 minutes somewhere, and it still has to be engaging and like immersive and fun, and things like music, like all of a sudden you have this interactive aspect to like how you're directing with music and like bringing that whole thing in. Like you have to like sort of layer it and take that time aspect into account as well. Of like you can't just go like, all right, when Lana comes here, the music would come in there, and then like it'll be like right on this beat. It's like no, you have to always keep that interactive element in mind, and like hugely challenging, but so much fun.
And final question, what part of the game are you really proud of?
I mean, just speaking for myself, I think I'm so proud of so many things, and I'm so proud of the whole team, and it's just been so amazing, like having this like from the start when it was just an image and an idea, and just getting to experience this journey of like more and more people coming onto the team and how they add things to the creative process and to the game, and how it's just gotten so much better because of all these like very talented people that has and is working on the game. I think I'm very proud of that, and I'm very proud of how we managed to come to where we're at now.
Yeah, for sure. Look, everything Adam said, it's like that's my answer as well. But I will say as well, because I like just bringing it up, and it's like the music. We're just so happy with our soundtrack from the very talented Takeshi Furukawa, who came on board. Like he actually got in touch with us, which was like huge. He saw this key art as well. I guess it evoked some questions in his mind too, and he sort of got in touch, and it was like a dream. Like we couldn't believe, like the composer of The Last Guardian, like jumping on board. Yeah, and then that process, and for me as well, because like music is a big part of the story as well. It actually plays into both gameplay and story. And so just to be able to work with someone like him who like sort of really got that straight away, and like, starting that collaboration it's just been so awesome. But like Adam said, everyone's awesome.
I'm Gabriel Caruso. I work for Space Lizard Studio, and I'm the game developer of Paper Cut Mansion. We're a very skeleton crew because we are a team of 3 guys. It's myself who does pretty much everything from animations, 3D modeling, sketching, and sound and music. And we also have another artist who's called Tano, and the programmer who's Lorenzo, who deals with the code. So about my background, I've been like, I started as a composer, audio engineer. So I made a couple of games where I was involved into like only the music part of the game and the sound effects and everything else, because my background is more on the musician side, because I was like playing in a band and stuff. So I transitioned from that into the game development. So it was more of a, a composer role type of thing. And then after that, I worked on different games, mobile games and console before. Before Paper Cut Mansion, we released a game called Dragon Bros, which was like a retro pixel art game in which I did pretty much the music and the sounds, but also just a little bit of pixel art as well. And then after that, I started making paper models for Paper Cut Mansion. I started sketching around because we wanted to create a new game. And this is when I started being an actual artist as well, and an animator and everything else. That's my background.
In your band, what instrument did you play, or did you sing?
I used to play bass and try to sing. I'm not a singer, but I was trying my best to sing. Yeah.
What type of music?
It was a mix of genres. We did punk rock mixed with chiptunes. Chiptunes like retro arcade sounds, 8-bit, pretty much. So it was electronic and punk rock mixed together. A weird combination, but it worked. I really like things.
So Paper Cut Mansion, your new game, it is a roguelike horror game in which you play as Toby, a police detective who needs to explore a creepy mansion. You solve puzzles, fight enemies, complete quests, and in each run, you hope to get a little closer in getting behind the mystery of this bizarre place. For this Gamescom special episode this year, we prepared 3 questions for you. You ready?
Yeah, I guess. Go fire away.
So first question, this game really has a special style. So everything looks like it's made out of cardboard and reminded me a bit of Paper Mario at first. Just the characters in the game are 3D and they aren't completely flat like Mario. Why did you choose that kind of art styles?
So as I said before, basically I started sketching, right? So I started messing around with this new style. I wanted to just sketch around and see what I was capable of doing. And I remember when we started the project, it was me and Lorenzo, the programmer. So we were like in a kind of an internal game jam that we wanted to like experiment. We wanted to start thinking about ideas to make a new game. So I was in the process of moving home back then. And as I was moving from, one house to the other, I found myself one day surrounded by like cardboard boxes, right, in an empty room. And I thought, we were like, oh, what should we do with our next game? What's the idea? We were brainstorming. And as I was sitting in the middle of like a lot of cardboard boxes, I thought, this is quite scary. Why don't we make like a cardboard scary game? And this is where the idea came from. So I started sketching and I wanted to, make kind of a cardboardy paper craft atmosphere that is also scary. And I think that really works.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. So second question. What is or was the most difficult part in developing Paper Cut Mansion?
I guess if you're a small team, dealing with a lot of stuff altogether, so thinking in advance what can go wrong and defining the style as well. I guess since we're like just a few guys, it's very hard sometimes to squeeze every idea we have into the game. So sometimes we have to sacrifice something. I mean, for this game, we didn't sacrifice much. We had like plenty of ideas, but I guess the challenging part is just as an indie developer in general is like being able to do a lot of things, like being like doing the multitasking, right? And that's probably the most challenging for any indie developer.
Yeah. And final question, what part of the game are you really proud of?
I'm really proud about the non-player characters, like the quests, like the way how they talk to you, the way how, you interact with everyone. But also, I'm really proud of the bosses on the game. So there are like a couple of bosses, and because these are like the bosses is the part that I worked for longer. Like I could take more time focusing on the bosses, and I think they work great. So yeah, I'm really proud of that.
And can you already tell us how the bosses look like? What kind of bosses there are? Or
That would be a spoiler. I wouldn't go that far.
what's the release date? Is there some?
Cannot really reveal that right now, but a few months more, and it's 2022 for sure.
Okay.
And we're releasing for all consoles, so it's gonna be on Switch, PlayStation 4, 5, Xbox One, XS, and PC OCAS.
Okay, cool. Thanks so much, and good luck with the game.
We are Tumesi Studio. The studio is very small and it's composed by us. Me, I'm Zera, the author and the one who's making the graphic style and the story. And I'm Federico, the developer of Universe for Sale. With us, there is also Guglielmo that is making the music, and so is the studio is all of us, or only three. And the idea of making these video games comes like 2 years ago. The main point was because I was trying to make a comics with this story, and then when I discussed with Federico about this idea, it comes the idea to make it like a video game, and we already do some experiment in the video game, but nothing very serious. We do some apps with the phone and stuff, but we want to make something more bigger, and then so we try in the COVID period to experiment with Universe for Sale, and it goes well. It was very nice, the product that we created, and yes, the first Holy Star.
So, Universe for Sale, just to sum up, a sci-fi narrative game set on planet Jupiter, in which you follow a mysterious cultist. He meets up with a woman called Lila, who's a lender, and she has the ability to create universes, or rather make them visible. And now for our Gamescom special episodes this year, we prepared 3 questions for you. All of you are ready? So question 1, I tried to outline the story a bit, but I feel like you really need to go into detail to understand this world we created. And in your game description, you also mentioned that the story is about a human relationship and self-acceptance. So can you take us maybe deeper into the story without spoilers, of course, and how that is easy? And tell us that this game has some sort of message too.
When you see this game, maybe you expect a story like Star Wars or something, maybe action or stuff. So with human relationship is something I want to point out that is all of these settings is only to make something to talk about, and meanwhile to talk about the feeling of the character and what their lives in this planet and how it goes their lives. And during all this meeting and this chatting, this small talks, after a while you start to understand there is something more obviously deeper in the narrative and in the story of this game that you must discover and see what the final what do we want to put in the final of the game. So with the human relationship, it's more like a gut in the mind of the characters and see what is inside.
And you can't go too deep, otherwise you will spoil the story, right?
Yeah, exactly.
No, we don't. Second question, with what did you struggle the most during the development of Universe for Sale?
Okay, maybe we're just in tune, and being true, it's nice because we can work faster to speak with each other, and even with the engine I use, it's easy in true. It's easier in true. But well, there are a lot of parts in the development that are really repetitive. So there are some kind of development which are a little boring, but that's normal. It's part of the game, and there is a lot of work. In general, I'm sure there is a lot of work. It is increasing, every day is increasing. It's not good. Every time it's going because every time you have an idea, no, we can put this, or we put this, and you put work on work. Okay, work. It's a tree. Okay, it's a tree of work. You start a little, and then, and at the beginning we even try with voice acting. We want to put that in the pro demo, but then at that time we didn't have a publisher behind. So we didn't know if we ever find from the publisher in future. So we threw away this idea. It was too much for us, too much effort, too much money, even too much work, because it was a lot of stuff to consider. And
the thing is better that way because you have this nice music in the background, and I didn't feel like the voice acting is necessary.
Besides, we try to do our best to make softer even without a voice acting. There is a little bubbling for every character, the character that is different for every character. We try to do our best with the things that we have, essentially.
So, final question: what part of the game, or with what part of the game, are you really proud of?
No. In general, whole every time you open the game, how does it feel the general composition? Because our objective was to make something very current, 360 current, so that everything is put to make like a living comic book. We feel that we, from that point of view, is we center what we want to make. So now our objective is to continue to keep that quality for the game, and it's out. Yeah, me too. Actually, I did the same, because right now the prologue is that you just see some shot and there is on Steam. Is the one that I like most, just because it's finished. It's complete with all the lights and all the stuff. And we know that quality, it's amazing, and we want to do that. But right now, for the publisher and for working for show, how we are working? We're working a different way. We are just doing backgrounds, just doing little dialogues, placeholder dialogues. So it's just the entire game in a draw mode. It's like a storyboard, right? So right now there is all the game that is like a storyboard. So we are working something that is not beautiful, it's not satisfying. It's hard to keep the imagination here, but it will be like that. It's working. We know that we can do something nice. So it's always to keep the flow, keep the imagination. Be sure that it's working. It works.
Yeah, cool. Is there a planned release date yet?
For release. For now, we have 2023 in general, because we have a precise schedule, but there are a lot of stuff to consider, so we don't want to make a final date for now. A second half of 2023. Yeah, for the Central. We have the release of the announcement with our cooperation with Olin that will come around September, and we have to see. And then we will hope that we will make some news every month to show the way the game is working.
And also during Gamescom, is there also the prologue? Can people play it on Steam or something?
Right now, it's not completely on Steam, because we are making some updated stuff, but it is not now. It will be next week. So.
Okay. Well, thanks so much, you guys, and good luck with the game. It looks awesome, and have fun at Gamescom.
Thank you. Can't wait to do.
I'm Lucy Robert. I'm game designer at Naravan Studios, and we're about to release our first proper game, Backfirewall. We are a 4-team-member female-led studio set in Switzerland, and we are not from game industry at all in the beginning. We come from films and neuroscience and communication, and then we really wanted to create immersive experiences with like a heavy narrative part. So we went into making games, because why not? So we like challenges, apparently. What else can I tell you about us?
You're working on Backler?
Yes, we are. We are finishing working on Backfirewall. It's actually almost done. It should come out this year, which is exciting.
Just to sum up, Backfirewall is like this tragic comic first-person adventure in which you are the update assistant inside a smartphone. Your actual task is to make sure the newest operating system gets installed, but the old OS doesn't want to get deleted. So you try to help it and stop the update from happening. So for our Gamescom special episodes now this year, we ask 3 questions. You ready? Okay, cool. So question 1, while trying out Backfirewall, I had the feeling that I am never quite sure what's coming next. So sometimes there are strange puzzles to solve, and sometimes you either create bugs or hunt them down. And you can even talk to a rubber duck, which was very funny. And because of this crazy gameplay, Backfirewall reminded me a lot of the Stanley Parable, as it's also like this crazy game. So did that game somehow inspire you?
Yes. If Julia was on the mic right now, she would say that, of course, it was inspiring. And I think it's a game that really was important for us, because it came out at a moment where we didn't really have that many original humoristic narrative game. games, and it was like, okay, this exists, this is something we can do, and we might have the skills to do something like that. So of course we didn't want to do another Stanley Parable. We wanted to do it a game with a proper story, its own proper story, and it's just something that tainted the way we perceive video games, probably the experience of Stanley Parable. And it was a type of humor that Julia, the narrative designer, felt comfortable with and really wanted to exploit. So we get that a lot, that there's some similarities. I think the end goal is different. It's sure, it's a bit meta and dark humor and sarcastic, but it's our experience. It has other also influences that come and mix it up a little bit. So yeah.
As a question too, what is was the most difficult part in developing Backfirewall?
I have to choose only once. Okay. So I would say, if I can just sort of rather cut the answer in just a couple of main ones, we would have, like, the first thing is we all in the team, all of us, were learning how to make video games while we were making a video game. So it was difficult because we had like a limited amount of time to create something. And we had to learn about how making it. So we went through different phases in production of different version of the game that could have been completely different. And we had to choose which one was the right direction. And we had to learn some tools that worked for us in terms of management, in terms of communication and working together, especially with artists and sound design teams, where we had to figure out a workflow that worked. And so that was a huge challenge, and we're still learning, and we're still trying to figure out what is the right workflow for us as a studio. We probably wasted lots of time trying stuff that didn't work at all, and maybe with experience we would have known that there was a bad path, but now we know a little bit more. So I guess that's that. But yeah, that was the main thing, I would say. To start with a project that big and that ambitious with zero experience. Now that we look back, we're like, oh, what did we think was going to happen? But we made it somehow. So yeah, I was saying.
And a final question, with what part of the game are you really proud of?
I think I would say, like, the characters really turn out to are really working in the end. That was a big question mark the whole game. We're like, is it gonna work? Because it's sort of this magical thing that happened where it just works. You know, you can put all of the right ingredients. You have no guarantee that it works in the end. But I think for a character such as OS9, who has already so much love from the community and the people playing, it's like, okay, all of this hard work and all of these iteration, it was worth it because we have something that works in the end. And also, I think all of the sound design and the atmosphere, sometimes it's also catching up, and it's like, okay, there, it's working there. And yeah, it feels great to also have just finished a game. We went through A to Z and we did it, we finished it. So yeah, but yeah, we're really happy that we got to the end of this first adventure.
Okay, great. And release is planned this year or next year?
It's planned to be released this year. We don't have a release date quite yet, but it will be communicated. But yeah, it should be 2022. So fingers crossed.
And will there be a Steam demo now during Gamescom?
Yes, we have a Steam demo that is available until the 5th of September. So during the whole duration of Gamescom, everyone can play it from Steam.
Okay, very cool. Then good luck with your game, and thanks for the interview, and have fun at the Gamescom.
Yeah, you too. Thank you so much. And all right, maybe see you again.
So my name is Dmitro Zhovtobrev, and I am the CEO of Snowhound Games. It's a pretty small indie studio based in central Finland. We've been around for, I guess, some 7 or probably 8. Yeah, soon I'm gonna be 8 years, I guess. And currently we are working on our third project. So Potion Tycoon is our third game project. It's in many respects it's probably different from what we've done before. But yeah, probably let me finish first about the team. Like I said, we're a small studio. We're 7 men strong. Now at different times we were from maybe 5 to 8. And actually we started, it all started as a student project, and we've always had this ambition to create very original hardcore games for PC and console player audiences. And our first project was mobile. It just came out that way, but then we switched actually to live up to our dream. And our second game was actually that kind of game. It was released first on PC and then on consoles. It was a tactical RPG game called Deep Sky Derelicts. I don't know if you guys heard of it. It's like similar to Darkest Dungeon game, but set in a sci-fi world and having a lot of this comic-esque vibes, like art style, and also a lot of elements which make it look like a comic book, pretty much. Yeah, and we actually kept that art style. We decided that it's one of our strengths. It's one of our pillars in what we're making. And Potion Tycoon actually also shares that specifically with our previous projects. So it has that same art style. We call it Playful Haunt. It's 2D, handmade, comic-esque, like I said, and like slowly getting to this Potion Tycoon theme. So it was a new tour for us. We decided to try another genre, and we have some fans of Tycoon games, management simulation games on the team, and this time they got their chance actually to speak up, to kind of give their word to the world. And actually, so far it was an interesting journey, and we feel like we're cooking something interesting here. And yeah, partly it can be, seen by the way people receive and react to this game. I mean, both like our publisher friends and people who just came to know this game for the first time, like here at Gamescom. So yeah, we feel quite optimistic that this game can actually find its faithful audience. So we'll see it once the game is released on early access, which I hope is happening this year. But of course, we still have no set release date yet. But I'm pretty positive that it should happen this year. What should I tell you about the game? So I actually told you a little bit earlier about it. So Potion Tycoon is a management simulation game. It's inspired by many titles, I believe. Some of those are pretty old Tycoon titles, which we have fans of on the team. Actually, I can't even name them because probably those were played by other guys on my team, and they just told me they took inspiration from that. The games I personally know and I can tell that we inspired from them were Oxygen Not Included, maybe to some extent Fallout Shelter, my what's it called? My Little Workshop. Yeah, something else that just can't remember right now. But yeah, that's actually what German publisher like about it. They call it in German Wuselfaktor. So it's especially when you're later into the game, you can see a lot of things happening at the same time, simultaneously, like all that kind of fuss and buzz going around the potion house you have and you control in the game. And it seems like it's to the liking of so many people. It kind of creates some incentive for them to gain control of all of this and make sense of all of it. I don't know. So it's something like that.
Yeah, the goal is in Potion Tycoon just to experiment with recipes, try out different potions, try to sell them and attract customers, right?
Yeah, I think that all of those, they are integral parts of this experience. I think what they're trying to achieve here is that there is no maybe single part which, maybe except for that production setup, that you must do in the game. Like, for example, the core will more or less look like that you first design a recipe and then product based on that, and then you create a production setup which would be able to produce that specific potion. And then once it's ready, you just put it on showcase, and then you observe customers coming and solve different problems related to production and to sales. And then you also look how to expand and advance and enhance all your departments of this potion house. So this is more or less it. And for example, in the demo we have here at Gamescom, you cannot avoid that recipe creation phase that you necessarily have to go through it and to create your recipe. But for example, we would like actually to have that a bit more optional as a bit more optional feature in the final game. So we'll have some automatic feature, which if you're not a fan of doing that alchemy experimentation, you would be just able to actually auto create something which is done against specific criteria, like that's level of product grade, for example, and that type specific type of potion. And so we want to give some room to the players what they really want to focus on. So while I think, of course, this actual shop simulation is the really core part of the experience and how you manage that shop of yours so it stays afloat and economically viable and like that.
Well, Potion Tycoon at first is a management simulator, and as you said before, you made 2 different games with different genres. Ape Storm Full Bananas, an action mobile game, Deep Sky Derelicts, a turn-based strategy game. So why do you change genres all the time?
Maybe because we would just like it that way. Yeah, I think there's no like very clear, definite answer to that. I think there's a few like factors which contributed to that. Maybe once we are doing something, we somehow get really used to it, and maybe we want like really change things and fresh things up for ourselves, and we change a little bit to a different genre. It also might depend on a specific person who might have their own reasons why they feel like it's the right move. But basically, I think I have a good reference example for you, like one studio, pretty well-known studio, which does the same thing and very successful, Clay Entertainment. They have a lineup of pretty famous, like it's still an indie studio, but their games are very like famous. Mark of the Ninja, this Oxygen Not Included, in fact. What else? So they actually have different genres. So they have this, stealth action, then like normal like platformer action game, and then they have what else? This Oxygen Not Included is also like a Tycoon game. I think there are more that I just don't remember right now. But the point is they can do that successfully, and I think that they are enjoying what they're doing. But still, somehow it's seen in their games. You can always say like, okay, this is probably Clay's game because they have their own artistic choices, which are carried across different titles, and you can pretty easily see that. So I think in this sense, we are similar to them. We try to be similar to them, and they serve as an inspiration for us as a studio in many respects. So yeah, that's my perspective on it. But maybe for some of our guys, like our creative director, whose idea Potion Tycoon is his idea. I think he has dreamed of making a game like this for quite some time. And it's just like this, concept ownership is an important thing because we have a specific company structure where we have like 5 co-founders, and we kind of have equal rights. And we have our word is kind of counted. And with the previous project, it was another person's idea, and it got green lighted, and we decided to go this path. But this time around, we decided to switch gears a little and try something else, and everybody was positive about that. So maybe next time we do something completely different, maybe some action again. Why not? I don't know, action RPG, whatever. What I'm sure about, it's probably gonna use similar artistic choices. That's almost inevitable, man.
With what did you struggle the most during the development of Potion Tycoon?
That's a good question, because I can name maybe several things. But maybe the most obvious is the challenges coming from, this specific genre, and those changes were new to us. I mean, if we kept doing the same tactical RPG stuff as we did in our previous project, maybe we wouldn't have those challenges. At least it would be like much easier to pick up. But it was difficult in that respect. Actually, the funny story is that we are a small team, like I said before, and with Deep Sky Derelict, we had that sort of bottleneck. It was our graphic arts department, because that game required so much content, and to really shine, we actually should have had more content than we even managed to add there. And we realized that with the current team setting, maybe it's not that feasible to continue along this line. And so I remember we were discussing in this way, next project should be simpler, less content, maybe more gameplay focused, and so that gameplay would deliver on itself. And that was part of the answer, actually, why we chose this specific genre this time. But actually, it turned out to be more challenging on other, from other perspectives. And now it's way more pressure and workload on the programmers, because we have two programmers, and it's very hard actually for them to keep up with the design department and implement everything on time. So that's the challenge, actually, how to implement everything on time now, because the game is so heavy on mechanics, and unlike the previous game, which was heavy on content. So this is something new, and we need to learn it and go through this. So I think that's the biggest challenge right now.
One final question, just what part of the game are you really proud of?
That's a good one. Yeah, I guess the definition that I'm proud of every part is not acceptable. Yeah. Well, maybe if there was somebody else from my team, it would be easier for them, because they work on a specific part. Because as a producer, I work on kind of all parts. For me, maybe the most exciting is still the art direction of it, even though I'm not an artist myself. But somehow I really love this art style, and I love the fact that we managed to find and nail down this specific visuals we use in our games, and I like the way it's turned out in this specific game. It's a bit different from previous games, less dark and more, like I called it, playful. It looks funny at some moments, but yeah, I like that a lot.
And good luck with the game, and have fun at Gamescom.
You too. Yeah, enjoy your time.
Hi, I'm Roger, part of Phillips Studios. I'm working on The Wandering Village. And Phillips Studios was founded, I guess, 2016. So we are 6 years old. It grows so fast. I joined the team when we were about to have the early access release of the first game. But I'm actually a career changer. So I do also concert visuals and just work at the LED walls for big techno parties. But it was like a skills meet opportunity situation where I was at the game dev meetup, and I tried to convince my sound designer to work at the game. They were just looking for a 3D artist. So I just jumped in, and I'm still here.
So yeah, you're currently working on The Wandering Village. It first seems like a classic city builder, but it really has something special. Can you maybe describe us the game a few sentences?
Sure, right. Yeah, it starts as a classic city building simulation game for maybe the first 20, 30, 35 minutes. But then suddenly you hear a big roar from afar, and you realize that you're just building your city on top of the back of a giant wandering creature called Ombu, which just stood up and starts to walk. The creature just got out of his, winter sleep, or woke up from a big long nap, because the ground is getting more toxic every day. So he's looking for another place. And now building the city on the top of a big creature brings some twist to the genre. Not only does it walk from one place to another, which brings different climate zones and hazards and opportunities, it's also just an animal. So that said, it may listen to you, it may, but just ignore you, as it is with a dog, or maybe something which is less domesticated, maybe a cow, right? So, yeah.
How did you come up with this idea of building a city on top of a creature?
Hey, these were the two co-founders who were at the game art exhibition, and they just saw this picture of there is this trope of the city which is on the back of a big turtle. I don't know if you have seen. It's like some people think it's super unique. I'd say it exists in Japanese mythology, and as far as I know, and I don't really know how to say it, but it's like in Indo-Canadian mythology. There's also like this story about a world on top of the turtle. You may also people come actually with the reference from all kind of places because the last Airbender Avatar uses it. Doctor Who has the space whale. What's more, that different kind of inspirations. But in the end, it was really just the co-founders of the studio going to the art exhibition and thinking like, hey, I would like to make a game like that. The other one was like, yeah, sure. So we did it.
So what was or is the most difficult part in developing a Wandering Village?
If you see images of the game, you'll see it's also the art style is kind of unique because it's 2D billboards on top of a 3D model. So it's this what we call 2.5 D for lack of a better name. That was the thing we weren't sure about for a long time. Also here it was pretty simple why we did it. We are in the studio and we just like to listen to the employees. And Marcus, the animator, wanted really to do a game where he can finally use his skills to do hand-drawn animations frame by frame. We were like, okay, let's try it out. And we didn't like the result when it would all be flat in 2D. So they would look very linear, which is like go from left to right to the animal. So we just tried to mix it and we thought, okay, it looks like it's working. And the longer we just saw that it's something that's a unique selling point, actually.
Yeah, definitely. And what part of the game are you really proud of?
What part of the game am I really proud of? Hey, I always think about the things that I would like to improve. No, I'm just now at Gamescom here. I'm just happy that it's super well received. A lot of people are liking it. I'm proud of, I don't know, just that it's looking like we're doing something that makes a lot of people happy and people are excited about it. So I'm proud of exciting people.
Very cool. Planned release is September sometime? What?
Yes, this will be for the early access, mid-September. Later on, we'll bring it to the Xbox 2. And from then on, who knows what the future brings.
Okay, cool. Then good luck with the game. And yeah, have fun at Gamescom. And hopefully more people will enjoy this game.
Oh, thanks very much.
Thank you.
So I'm Nick Lagirio. I'm one of the game artists on Diluvian Winds and one of the founders of Atomic Studio who works on Diluvian Winds. And so we graduated in 2020. And that's when we started also to work on Diluvian Winds. So we have 5 buddies from school. And so we were, some of us already worked with our publisher, Goblin Studio, who actually gave us the idea for the pitch. And that's how we founded our team around the pitch of the game. And we made our own universe, our own world around it. So that's how it all started. And we've been working on it now for 2 years. And yeah, it's been going great so far, but we need more help on it. So which is why we got more friends on the projects.
Yeah. So I'm Mathis Lenormand, and I'm working as a producer and a game designer of the game. So I've made the same course with the guys, but I decided to make one more year for the producing things in school. That's why I joined them 1 year later, basically. And after joining them, I tried to organize a bit the things because there were a lot really creative guys. But since having only creative guys can lead to chaos, I need to make it a bit tinier. And since I'm here, I think we are going. The game is going right. It's going very great. And basically, and we still we also added another person on the team. We have Eloise, which helps us as a game designer also, which is a little sister of one of our artists. And also right now we are working with Goldie, which is a friend of them also. So we are trying to expand the team to meet the needs of the game because it's a huge game with a lot of management things, content to do. But we are also trying to keep it warm and welcome, and so that everyone in the team can get along each other.
So for our Gamescom special episodes this year, we prepared a few questions for you. You ready? Sure. So question 1, you are currently developing this 2D management adventure game, Diluvian Winds. Could you maybe, in a few sentences, explain what it's all about?
Okay, so Diluvian Winds is a management roguelike game. You will embody a lighthouse keeper, and you will make a relationship with travelers that are going to help you because you're a bit old, so you can't do much by yourself. Those travelers are flying some climate disruptions, such as harsh weather, a huge tidal waves. And so you are going to make something like an hamlet in which everyone can be safe.
And question 2. So we already had you on our show last Gamescom. Back then, you outlined also the gameplay to us. You're gonna manage and gather resources, upgrade rooms, go on expeditions, and the lighthouse also plays an important part. So, what's so special about the lighthouse, and how do your actions influence the game?
Basically, the lighthouse is how the travelers are spotting your place. So you really need the fire to stay high, because if it don't, you will just won't be able to gather travelers, and the caravans that are running the world won't be able to see you. So you just won't be able to make anything. That's why you lose when the fire goes down. And you are not really supposed to fix things in Diluvian Winds. We are just trying to show that you can live in any situations and survive even if the climate is going wrong.
You can decide if you want to help the other people, or are you always helping them?
Basically, you are always helping each other because you need it in the game to survive. Because it's a harsh world with a lot of things going wrong, so you always need to help each other. And we did not want to have a wrong message. That's why in previous updates you were giving meals to everyone individually, and we turned it to a common meal to make it a bit more warm and welcoming.
3. What is or was the most difficult part in developing Diluvian Winds?
Well, a lot of things.
Yeah, a lot of things. I believe the hardest part was to organize ourselves, since we were students coming out of school. We were very happy to begin our own journey on video game making, but it was also hard to fix all the game design elements, all the structure of the game. Management games are also really complex to make, and you need to think about the rules very specifically and to be on point on everything, which we saw we're having a hard time doing with 2 artists and 3 developers, but no game designers. So, which is why we asked for help from our friends, and we somehow managed to come to this point, right?
Oh, great. And final question, what part of the game are you really proud of?
Yeah, I believe it's the game as a whole. So I speak as an artist, but I'm pretty happy about the whole mood that it gives off. We really want to make it cozy, homely. Like, you want to be attached to the characters, which is why I went for animals. You know, they're cute. You want to know a bit more about them. They all have those archetypes. So you'd be like, oh, the squirrel is cute, the bear. And so and so it really gives off this this feeling of you really like to spend some time yourself in the rooms and be the one like doing the stuff there.
They also look really, really nice and cozy.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think for me the thing we are the most part as a game designer was to make the game as accessible as possible, which was really hard because this is a really hardcore genre of game. But I think we are that's coming well, but we can still do better.
Okay, guys, thank you so much for showing us the game, and I can't wait to play it and have fun at Gamescom. Different.
My name is Marcus, and I founded Backwards Entertainment with 2 friends 7 years ago now. That's a long time. And we're making story games. Our first game of the point-and-click adventure, Unforeseen Incidents, which was released in 2018. And since then, we're working on new projects. Our current project is called We Stay Behind. And it is a third-person 3D mystery game, which is sets in a small place, a small town that is threatened by a comet. A comet will hit, and the people don't want to leave. And you, as a writer, come to this town to find out why.
Okay. So for our Gamescom special episode, we prepared a few questions for you. You ready?
Yeah, I'm ready. Let's go.
So the first question, the game you released before was called Unforeseen Incidents, also a mystery adventure like your new game, We Stay Behind. What fascinates you about the genre?
Oh, we always wanted to make adventure games even before we made them, and we weren't a studio. In our childhoods, we always played those games, and this is why I always wanted to make one. And then we get the chance to make Unforeseen Incidents, and now this suddenly became our job. And this is just great to be able to make the games you always wanted to play. And
to think of stories, to come up with ideas. And we have basically, when you start such a project, you have complete freedom in what you want to tell. And so telling stories is, I think, the thing we want to do in our games. And this is basically what's fascinating to us. And yeah, that's really cool that we get the chance to do that.
Yeah. So question 2, with what did you struggle the most during the development of We Stay Behind?
Was the engine. We started developing We Stay Behind with Unity now 4 years ago. And we made a prototype with Unity. We exhibited this at Gamescom 2019. And we realized that we could make a better game if we used Unreal. And this is just the case for this very game, because it always depends on the game, what's the best engine, and also on the team, and a lot of factors come into that. But we realized for us it would be better to make this in Unreal. So we switched engines in the middle of production, which was a lot of work, and we had to learn Unreal Engine, would set us back at least 1 year. And so this was a lot of work, but I think in the end it paid out, because the game is much prettier now. It plays better, and this is the feedback we also get from others.
Yeah, the game was beautiful, so that's thank you. Definitely was a good decision, I think. And final question, what part of the game are you really proud of?
Oh, we have still a lot of work in front of us. There's still a lot to do. What we have right now is the technical basis for everything. We have the engine, we have a story framework. We are now finally able to implement the story itself. And I think it's a story. That's the core of the game, and it's the idea what's happening there. It's this mystery that's behind everything, and that you will get to explore when you play the game. I'm not sure if this will be the same answer when the game is finished. Probably because it's the core of the game. But I'm also excited about the look, and we will get to see a lot more scenes when the game is finished. And I'm really, really looking forward to that, which will hopefully be beginning of next year.
Yeah, looking forward to it. So thank you very much for these insights, and yeah, have fun at Gamescom and good luck with the game.
Thanks a lot.
My name is Michał. I'm PR/marketing/event/whatever you need to do manager at a Polish studio called Mass Creation. But now here on Gamescom, we are with our internal studio game. The internal studio name is Witty Games, and we are presenting a game called Hamster Playground. So we are advertising this as one of the cutest game in the whole Gamescom. So it's a game about hamsters. I work in the gaming industry for, I think it's already 6 years now. Before that, I work in Postishi Mash. So it's a Polish CGI powerhouse. They are doing trailers for games, special effects for films. They work with CD Projekt Red on Witcher 3. They work with Ubisoft, the kind of stuff. So I'm around the industry for a longer time. But after like almost 3 years, I decided I want to work with game developers. So I moved to games direct.
Okay, cool. So for our Gamescom special episode, we prepared a few questions for you. So you're ready? So first question, as you said, Hamster Playground is your current game, a casual game with cuteness overload, as you describe it as C. Could you maybe tell us a bit more about it?
Yeah. So we created a mix of Tamagotchi game, Sims, and a little bit of Manager. Basically, you have a hamster house. When you got your hamsters, you need to take care of them, so feed them, play with them, put them to sleep. Then you have to train them because they need to race. The racing element is racing in maze, or drag race on skateboards, or eating cookies. So whoever eats most cookies. So those 3 modes are available in the game. Because the game's in early access, there will be more to come. So I can't say what at the moment. Sorry. But it's going to be fun.
And more hamsters, probably. Yes. Brilliant. Second question. You said game is already out of Steam Early Access, free to play. What player feedback did you get so far?
Okay, so the game's got very positive reception. So from one side, of course, there is some things that we need to work on. But that's what the early access for us is. we were ready. I think we were ready for more negativity. I think kind of things. We had some issues with online playing, but yesterday we released the first patch, and we hope it's gonna be might improve the game on this area. Of course, people want more clothes for hamsters and more stuff for home. And we already released I think there's 250 pieces of cosmetics available in the game now. But yeah, I mean, mostly these are things. The things are positive, so the people like the game. They're saying it's cute and that kind of stuff. But they also pointing out very cool things which we, as a developer, when you're a developer, you spend with the game so much time, you very often don't see some small things which might be annoying or which might not make sense. And now when we have the players playing, so they pointing us, look, this thing needs to be changed. You need to change this icon because, and we are reading, and it's genius. Why don't we saw that for 2 years basically when we were working in the game? But that kind of feedback is very helpful. So I'm gonna get back to the online multiplayer. It was we created the whole UI for it, and for us it was super plain, super understandable for everyone, and super simple. It wasn't. So basically in 2 days, the guys in Warsaw needs to redesign, I think 60% of the UI for the multiplayer to make it more understandable for players. Because for us it was super easy. For people who will get in touch with the game for the first or second time, don't. So yeah, that kind of things we need to work with. But basically it's very, very cool, and everyone likes the game. And it's positive. So yeah, we are happy.
Right. Yeah, and also that's what early access is for.
Yes, exactly.
So third question, with what did you struggle the most during the development of Hamster Playground?
Yeah, that's very, very tricky question.
Okay.
The question is, I think I would mostly say, how to present certain things in the game, and the decisions, what to cut out and don't put it in the game, and what's supposed to stay. I mean, I would not go to the details because we can talk for 2 hours probably about that. But basically the thing is that we are doing a game about living animals. So we knew that probably there are gonna be people who will say you're doing this wrong, the design of the pets is wrong, that kind of stuff. So, but we decided to stick with what we come up to and defend it. Because we already got there was a guy, I think on Twitter, that he wrote that we know nothing about designing hamsters and we should go to I think Japanese Twitter, because the Japanese people know how to design hamsters in games. I have no idea what he was talking about. Me neither. Yeah, but basically, yeah, that kind of stuff. I think this is the most difficult part when you're hearing very bad feedback about things that you work on for a year. And then sometimes there is this temptation to, maybe this guy is right. So maybe we can start over from scratch. It's put everything to trash and start again. No, I mean, this is our game. We made some decisions. Of course, we will have to handle the consequences later on if there will be any. But the thing is that you need to defend your own game. I mean, I understand we're doing this for the players, and I understand that they need to enjoy it. But for me, I know it's a little bit selfish, but in the end, it's our game. And we should know how to defend it as a developer and try to explain why certain decisions were made. I mean, if someone can, of course, there are areas when we can talk and have a dialogue, and maybe we can change our mind, like with the UI for the multiplayer. But I would say that there are things in every game that need to be defined by the developers, and this criticism very often is not right.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they will say that your game is beep and that's it. No, there's no arguments or whatever, and you can't argue with that. But it's working on developers. When you're reading that kind of stuff in the internet, it's getting to you. So the thing very often struggling is like we don't always have a will to ignore things that we read about our game in the internet. I would say like that.
Yeah, sure. But also maybe look at it, if it's one person who's saying that, then try to ignore it. Of course, it gets to you.
Yeah, but it's we very often it is one person, but like this, or it's a small percentage of people, but they are very vocal. So there are always moments when it's getting to you, and you're starting to think maybe he's right, maybe we did this wrong, whatever. Yeah. So it's like when you hear only positives for a long time, you can understand. Then like you're very sensitive to whatever critic you will hear, even if it's like the critic is not good, not constructive. You will probably get smashed.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, I said it's your babe, it's your day.
Yeah, exactly. At least in the end, if we made bad decisions, we are not gonna sell the game.
Yeah.
That's it.
And final question, what part of the game are you really proud of?
The animation of the hamster. This is something that everyone who's in touch with the game, even when we were doing tests or we showed it to the developers on conferences or that kind of stuff, they said that animations are awesome. And we are very proud of that because it's work of one person. We have only, there's one animator who worked on that. There's no mock-up, no motion capture of the hands or whatever. Everything is hand animation. And it's very, very good.
Yeah, I think it's cool. I like it's really a cuteness overloader.
Yes, I think the hamsters do like 90% of the job. When you see like a piece of video or a GIF or something, then that's cool.
Definitely. Nico, thanks so much for the interview.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
And good luck with the game. And have fun at GameStop.
Yeah, thank you, you too.
I'm Phil. I'm co-founder and game director at Awaseb. We're a small studio based in Bordeaux in the south of France, but originally we're from New Caledonia, so it's a small island in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. It's a French island, but it's very remote, so it's very different from the actual French culture. Our first game was called Fossil Echo. It was a tiny 2D platformer that came out in 2016. But back then it was just 2 people, myself and my partner Tchia. And since then, we've been working on Tchia, which is our new game that, I'm always happy to chat about. But yeah.
So for our Gamescom special episodes, we prepared a few questions for you. Are you ready?
Of course, yeah, sure.
Tchia is this open world sandbox adventure you're currently working on. Could you describe us the game a little bit more?
Sure. So Tchia is a tropical open world adventure inspired by New Caledonia. So everything in the game is seen through the prism of our experience growing up in an island in the Pacific Ocean. So the game is designed as a toy box. We wanted to give every mechanic a toy-like feeling. So it kind of emulates the way you would feel when you were a kid and just throwing stuff around, hitting stuff with each other, just making sure that everything was physical, very analogic, and that everything reacts to everything else. So that's what the gameplay is all about. It's supposed to be fun and freeform and to allow players to make it their own and try to generate like systemic interactions between the stuff in the world. But it's also a very story-driven game. Because of that inspiration from New Caledonia, we also built a very human story that's rooted in New Caledonian culture and that portrays the different cultures that are on the island and the different kind of people that you can meet there. And it tells a story of childhood, growing up, friendship and family, and finding your place in the world and discovering what makes you special through the eyes of Tchia, who's a very special young girl. And it also has a lot of magical and fantastical elements that make it, like, I think, fresh and fun too. Yeah.
Second question, what is or was the most difficult part in developing this game?
The most difficult part, everything is difficult. It was a difficult game to make because we're a small team, we're 9 people, and it's a pretty ambitious game. So I think nothing was really easy. One thing that always comes to mind is Tchia's ability to climb anything in the game. So we have a free climbing system where you're not constrained by any surface in the game. You can climb
pretty much in any direction, and it's very freeform and smooth. And that sounds like something that might be easy. Okay, you go up to a wall, you stick to it, and then you climb up. But actually, it creates a whole lot of locomotion problems and hard stuff to figure out. So it looks like a simple mechanic, but was actually one of the big challenges to program in the game. Yeah.
And final question, what are you mostly proud of in the game?
I'm proud that we're able to portray our homeland in a light that can get people from all around the world interested, because we really didn't want to fall into making something that was self-indulgent and just about us, and that would only resonate to local people from the island, that would feel very foreign for anyone else. So we built a team where the core of the team is from New Caledonia, but we brought in people from all over to make sure that we had different perspectives, to find that right balance between honoring the culture, but also making something that's universal, that anyone in the world can enjoy and understand and jump into and doesn't feel too, weird. So I think we struck a right balance, and that was a real challenge. So I think that's the thing I'm most proud of. And the second thing I'm most proud of is being able to poop as a bird when you're flying.
Yeah, that was awesome. So thanks so much for being on our podcast, and and have fun at Gamescom.
Thank you so much. Have the rest of Gamescom, and thanks for checking out Tchia.
We are D-Pad Studio. My name is Joe.
My name is Simon.
And we are today talking about Vikings on Trampolines, our next game. We've been spending a ton of time developing our major game called Owlboy, and this is our big project after successfully launching Owlboy back in 2016. And it was a huge, huge game where we spent 10 years developing the whole thing. And now we haven't spent 10 years on this, luckily, but it is actually, in fact, 20 years old. I designed it when I was 14 years old. I designed it for my little sister because we were playing a ton of games, and I wanted her to be able to play a game that was competitive, but that she would learn really fast. So in this game, you play as Vikings, and the only thing you need to worry about is jumping on trampolines.
Of course, me and Joe, we met quite some time ago. I believe it's about 15 years ago now. We met by chance at a developer meetup in Norway. Now, back then, none of us had any game experience. We had tried some small projects on our own. Like Joel mentioned, he did make this game when he was 14. And I'd made some of my own projects. And I just started, dabbling in pixel art, which was something that was self-learned. We didn't actually have computer school. I was going through art school. I actually snuck into the computer department to teach myself how to use Photoshop. So that was, we met by chance because I made a little prototype for Owlboy. And my programmer had just left the project to work for a different company. So me and Joe met up, and he was on his way to England I think he was trying to apply for a job at Lionhead.
Yes.
And then at random, he saw my game. We started talking, and then he got on the plane back, and then we started working together. So the great thing there was, it's important to note, at this point, there was no independent industry in Norway. We did have a couple of video game companies with some notoriety. You had Funcom, you had Playfish up north, and you had some minor studios that were doing some okay things. But an indie career, that was not something that was really So when we met together and made a little extra version of Owlboy, we noticed a thing called IGF. This was the Independent Game Festival in San Francisco. And on a whim, we set a version of that out. And we didn't expect it to get nominated or win anything. And then we get the invitation that, oh yeah, no, you've been nominated for an award. I think it was the Visual Arts Award, which is just staggering to me considering that I don't have any professional training in this. So yeah, we went over there. I also met a girl there for the first time who I ended up marrying later, which was great. And so we showed off our game for the first time, and we didn't actually end up winning that award. We just kind of, we were on screen, which was already incredible, along with all these industry professionals, but we didn't win anything. And then we went home, and then all of a sudden, oh look, Norwegian games could do things on their own. What a surprise. And as a result of that, sort of this industry started to blossom. The government started to give funding to video games through the Norwegian Film Fund. Indie studios started cropping up left and right. Turns out, if you showcase people that you can make something and people take note of it, then things start to happen. So from there on, we founded DPS Studio and been making games ever since.
Cool. So for our Gamescom special episodes this year, we prepared also 3 questions for you. You ready?
Right.
Okay, awesome. So first question, you're working currently on Vikings on Trampolines, a co-op adventure which can play up to 4 players. There are different game modes in this co-op adventure. Can you maybe describe your favorite one for us?
So we have been adding bosses to the game. Big, huge, lumbering bosses. And they will put players to a great challenge. So you can play the game solo as well. But of course, the game is better with more players. So once you meet a boss, you can cooperate to take down the bosses. You can use each other as trampolines as well. So anytime you meet a challenge in the adventure mode, you try to unlock new stages as well. And right now we are trying to fill it with as many mini games as possible. Even the map in the game has a mini game hidden in it. So we're trying to fill it with as many game modes as possible. But I think right now, challenging the bosses might be my favorite.
Yeah, I'm a little bit biased on that because there are a lot of modes that I really enjoy. I love the versus mode because you've been playing it for what is it now? 20 years, I think. I really like the football mode that we added because it's so much fun. But I have a bias towards the boss rush mode. But it's mainly just because I get to animate these giant lumbering things, and it's something that I've wanted to do for ages. So yeah, as the art director, I kind of have to pick that one.
I see. Okay. So second question, with what did you struggle the most during development of Vikings on Trampolines?
I think redefining what the game was supposed to be. Because early on, we had a very clear vision for what it was. We made a prototype where we sort of turned it into a versus brawler type of game, kind of like Smash Brothers. You had items and all that, and that works extremely well. The biggest challenge was COVID, because when you're sitting in one room, 4 people, there's the issue with contamination, and people were on lockdown, and we weren't exactly sure how we were going to bring this game to people if they weren't allowed to play it. So trying to figure out a way to make this also into a single-player cooperative experience was very challenging. Because when you're making a versus brawler, you focus on very different things, both on the art department and the mechanics. And bringing that over to something where you're not supposed to, beat the crap out of each other, but instead help each other, that was difficult. But we did have an epiphany moment where we were just kind of playing around the mechanics, and we said, wait a minute, why don't we just also make the Vikings trampolines as well? And all of a sudden, the second we realized that you could jump off of each other and help each other out in that sense, the entire game changed, and all of a sudden things started to work out. So I think that was the biggest one.
Okay. Final question. What part of the game are you really proud of?
Well, the art has taken a pretty big step up. I could show you a screenshot from the old game, although it won't be shown in the podcast. But you can find it online somewhere. But the game used to look like total crap. And then I showed it to Simon, and he was like, okay, let me make this pretty. Not only did he do that, but he made all these different characters to the game. He made these balloon-type enemies, and he crafted the world around the game that I had, designed when I was a little kid. And this game was supposed to be hidden from the world. I had forgotten about this game until that point. So I'm so happy that it turned out to be this fantastical adventure that it eventually became.
Awesome. So, well, good luck with the game. It was definitely so much fun. We just played it for a few minutes with you guys. And yeah, have fun at Gamescom and all the best. Thank you so much.